Take a look around now. Don't let the world bring you down. Take a look around now. Let us smile, replace the frown. Take a look around now.
Well, I've been taking a look around me all week, and I've been taking a look around today, and it's very grey and grisly and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know what it's like where you are, but maybe it's been the same. I don't know. I really don't know. But they tell me, that's members of my family, my huge family, that the sun is about to start shining again once more. So let's preempt that by starting this show today. How about that for a cheesy intro? Paul English Live, 99. What a number, eh? 99. An ice cream in there somewhere. Welcome to the show, everyone. We've got our usual opening hour kerfuffle coming up. Lots of funny, weird things to talk about, but it's no point me listing them because it always changes in mid-flow and we never know quite where we're going to end up. In hour 2, we're going to be joined from a good guest across the waters there, Blackbird 9. And in hour 3, another guest from across the waters. Eli James is returning for the last hour of the show. Yes, it's a nice, kind of gloomy evening here, I guess in keeping with the rather sombre mood of the country. If you've seen today's show image, you'll notice that it's Robin Hood. I thought that was important because, Robin Hood is emblematic and symbolic of certain things, and of course we're all merry men here, including our maid Marians, if you're around listening. So shout out to everybody in Rumble. Whether you're a Marian or a Merry Men, and also in YouTube. Welcome to the show again. Good to have you. We're also, of course, running out on WBN 324. And we've got 3 hours of something coming up for you, which is as much as a surprise usually to me and to Eric as it is to everybody else. And speaking of Eric, here he is. Eric, hello. Good evening. Welcome
Greetings.
to the show. Greetings. How are you?
Welcome. I mustn't grumble. I could do. And it's a bit murky here as well. In fact, my light might be going on any moment. It's getting rather dark. Yes, normally it doesn't get dark until about sort of 9ish, but now it's about an hour early. Weird, isn't it? But that's life. Anyway,
Yeah.
You've got Robin Hood. Was
Yes.
a nice boy, he was. And
He was a mighty
Walking
warrior.
around.
He was great.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
That sheriff of Nottingham, he was a bitch.
Well, he was pretty bad. Of course, it's a bit
Yes.
difficult, isn't it, really, sort of having a negative view of sheriffs when, in fact, we really need to bring them back. Proper ones,
Yes.
real ones, working for the people. I know that's a weird idea. No one even knows what that means these days, But we need sheriffs to put the government back into place. Maybe we could all become sheriffs. I mean, I'm not going to run around in a green leotard in the forest, Eric. I don't know about you. Is that something you've always wanted to do? No.
No, sort of. Yeah. Well, you never know. You might get some strange men following you. But I'm actually. It's funny enough. You're talking about sheriffs. I mean, when I was a kid, I was a sheriff.
Yeah.
I got a sheriff badge because all the kids had that. After what was it? What did we follow? Did you have a little Stetson hat and things like that?
I did. Yeah, I used to dress up as a cowboy. I mean, I did have
Yes.
a bow and arrow though. Did you have a bow and arrow when you were a lad?
I wasn't allowed bows and arrows and guns
No?
and things. I wasn't. No. My
were.
father forbid me to have weapons because he saw enough killing in the war. My son will never have a gun in his hand, so he never put a gun in my hand. So I
What
wasn't
about?
allowed toy guns.
Did you ever get your lips behind a pea shooter?
No. I was
What?
a good little boy. Yeah.
Oh,
I
this
never
is
did
not good
the
at
pea
all.
shooter. Yes, but I'm making up for it now.
Yeah, I thought the pea shooter was the sort of 1960s equivalent of a bow and arrow for a young lad 600 years earlier. Of course, I'm stretching it a little bit. My dad, by the way, was a travelling salesman and sold loads of stuff. One of the things he sold was marrow fat peas in their freeze-dried, shrunken form. Yeah?
Oh,
And it meant that I had an almost inexhaustible supply of ammo. It was quite
excellent.
And because of this, I had a lot of friends. Yeah, because my dad would just bring here's a sack, and we would have them. And being Northerners, we'd eat mushy peas, fun at both ends, before and after, as you well know. Yeah. So it's a gay time was had by all, and but I became very popular with my friends in the street because they said, "Hey, Paul, can I have some ammo?" I'm going, "Yeah, all right," So I became quite important. I was like I was the ammunition supplier. I was basically, a weapons dealer in the pea shooter world in my street in the 1960s. That's how big a guy I was. It was that good, yeah.
Well, down south, what they used to do, little sods in my school, they used to take the inside of a biro out, so you just had the casing of a biro pen, and then they get some paper in their mouth, pull it around, stick it in the bottom of the tube, and then use that as a pea shooter. So you got a horrible piece of damp sort of paper hitting your neck and things like that. Mm-hmm. That's what little bastards used to do in my school. And the really nasty little bastards used to dip the paper in ink and then shove that up the biro.
Did they?
Yes.
Shove it up the
one
biro?
Of them did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing like having a bit of paper up your biro, is it?
No, I guess there isn't really. No. But no, they used to do that, and it used to be bleeding horrible. It didn't hurt. You just got someone's sort of saliva into your neck or other areas where they decided to shoot their pea shooter. It wasn't a pea shooter; it was a paper shooter. So that's what the little bastards used to do when I was at school. I was a good little boy, though. I never did it. Yeah. Really?
Yes, I was a goody. But no, there was. I think that it's quite surprising how imaginative children are. The other one is we had some fiberglass round a water boiler, great big water boiler we had in the school, and they found out that fiberglass is very itchy. So what little sods used to do, you'd be sitting in class and they'd put some fiberglass down your neck, down the back of your shirt, so you'd be sitting there scratching all the time. Yes,
don't want
they're
that.
nasty in Moscow. No,
We don't want that.
No, it's a
No.
good school though. It's approved.
I was actually, anyway, just coming back, swinging the conversation back to Robin Hood. Sorry, I was slightly distracted there. I was listening to what you were saying, but we just had a slight technical.
Yeah.
So if you've just joined us
hell.
on Radio SOAPBOX, hello. Sorry about that. Well, I don't know what happened. There was a switch that didn't trip. There's about 8 things that have to happen here. And I was just boring someone before the show. I've got this technical doodad, Eric, and I sometimes talk about technical things. But I haven't had a chance to set it all up today. But I think it's going to automate. It's like a big script. I do sound like a bit of a nerd, don't I? I'm aware of this, but it's actually important. I've got about 8 different things to do on 2 different screens, and I just go, oh, and it takes me about a minute to calm down. That's why I always talk about the weather, because my brain's a bit frazzled. But it looks as though I've got this script thing, and I'll just press a button, and it'll go, whoosh, tick, 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 and check everything. So this is going to be pretty good. I'm quite looking forward to this. So
Excellent.
Yeah,
Because,
it makes me happy.
Well, Robin Hood bored the pants off people, and if that didn't work, you'd try some other method. So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
Anyway,
yes.
my quiz was this regarding the illustration for tonight's show. Okay. Now, the illustrator is a chap, an American guy who I love, fantastic book illustrator. And if you're not familiar with his work, shame on ye. N.C. Wyeth. Okay, Wyeth, N.C. Wyeth. And the show image for today, I know if you're on the radio, you don't know what we're talking about, but use your imagination. That's what radio's all about, isn't it? So, anyway, it's a fantastic painting of, an illustration of Robin Hood and his merry men. They're all lurking in the woods. And we sometimes lurk in woods, don't we, Eric? We like to lurk a bit in woods.
There's nothing like... Well, I went for a tramp in the woods the other night, and the tramp really didn't like it.
Boom, boom. That's good. Anyway, my quiz is this. We have used N.C. Wyeth illustrations for how many shows? How many? And which ones? Answers on a postcard, please. You can go off and look if you want. It's not much of a quiz, is it? Because everybody's going to listen to the show and go, I can't be bothered to go and look. But it's actually quite interesting. Yeah, I like it. I like them so much. I've got another one coming up, probably another about 5 or 6 weeks. And then I sometimes get a bit panicky. I'm thinking, I'm going to use all this really great stuff. Or what we're going to do when we get to show 8,542. But then I worked out that I probably would have been dead for quite a bit when that happens. So I'm not going to get too worried about it. But yeah, NC Wyeth, we've used him on how many shows? Eh?
I don't know.
How many? Come on. And the winner gets a Fockham Hall pencil so that when you get the pencil, you can sharpen it. And you too, with a little bit of practice, will be able to illustrate books as well as NC Wyeth. All you have to do, it's very simple with drawing. You just look at what's in front of you and then you draw exactly what you're seeing. I mean, how hard can it be? That's it.
Oh, yes.
Have you not thought about that? You just look at it, you go, it's that, and then you draw it. I don't know if I've actually banged on about drawing in the past, right? But I've got a wonderful book called Drawing with the Right-Hand Side of the Brain, which sounds weird, right? You don't stick the pencil, you don't tape it to that side of your head, right? It's to do with the way your brain processes information and visual information in particular, because most people, if you give them a pencil, most people say above the age of 15 or whatever, and say, can you draw me something? Everybody they used to, maybe they don't now. They used to get quite nervous. I suppose now they'd say, no, I'll just use AI and do you a brilliant illustration on the computer. I go, no, that's not what I'm after. But if you ask people to draw things, I always remember my mum and dad going, we can't draw for toffee. All this kind of stuff. Did you have that around you? Nobody can draw?
No, not really, because they're a bit arty-farty.
Oh, I see. It's a bit bohemian out there, is it? Right.
Yeah,
That's nice to know, actually. But most
my
people
sister was
bumble around,
artistic.
don't they? They bumble around with a pencil and stuff. And this is a fantastic book showing you about what's going wrong in your head. And it's fascinating, really, because it gets into all this stuff about, the left-hand side of your brain is the logic bit. So this is the bit that they really train in schools. The mathematics bit and the language bit and the sort of logic bits, all there. It's very important. We need it and everything. But what it tends to do, it's kind of short-tempered, that bit, and it tends to take over. So when people are looking, say, at a face, the left-hand bit keeps jumping in your head and he goes, I know what a nose looks like. It's sort of taking over control. You're having this little thing going on in your head. And you keep drawing what you think a nose looks like, not what you're actually looking at. In other words, you're actually not drawing what you can see because the left-hand bit keeps jumping in. It gets a bit impatient. It goes, I'll just do that. And you look at it and go, that's rubbish. So there's a series of exercises in the book to switch that bit off. And it works. And it's quite amazing. Because it's really, really interesting. And anybody, you can try this at home. All you need is some sticky back plastic. No, you just get a pencil and a paper. And maybe you can look up the book somewhere. It's probably online as a PDF freebie by now. But there are certain little exercises, and one of them, which is spectacular, it's about the third or fourth one in, is you take a photograph of someone's face and you're going to draw it. But what you do is you turn that photograph of the face that you're about to draw upside down. You turn it upside down. And when you're looking at a face upside down, the left-hand bit goes, what the bloody hell's that? It can't make head and a tail out of it. It just it starts to shut down because it can't name anything because it's never seen it before. So it just goes, I'm off to sleep, which is exactly what you want it to do. And the right-hand side of the brain starts going, that's this shape. And you just start to draw it. And I did it with, surprisingly, how about this? I think the photograph I worked on was John F. Kennedy. I turned it upside down and I drew a picture of John F. Kennedy. I turned it round after about 30 minutes. It said, don't turn it round, just keep working on it until you filled it all in best you can. And you turn it round, it's mind-blowing. It's really amazing. Yeah, anybody, you had a pen in your hand for years, didn't you, doing architectural drawings and stuff. So you've got the mechanical skills. It's the visual processing that's going wonky. And it's to do with our brains jumping in and mangling it up, which I suppose is the story of humanity, really. And it switches it off. So all these little exercises, and in the end, of course, they're saying, now it's a bit impractical for you to go through the world standing on your head just so that you can draw things accurately. Because it would be a bit of a challenge doing that. So you go through a sort of phasing out of that, but it's to tune you in, and you learn this sort of condition, and you're extremely still. It is amazing. It is, yeah.
Well,
there you go.
The thing
See,
is,
I'm full of this stuff.
there's only one problem. I'm left-handed. so it would be the opposite side. So it'd be my right brain, wouldn't it? I think was it
Might
Woody?
not be. That'd be really
Woody Peake
interesting.
said that.
Yeah, it maybe
Yeah.
it is. Is that the case though? I mean, is that the case
Well,
that left-handed
yeah, I
people
think it
process
is.
it reverso?
I don't know, but I know that left-handed people, many of them went into tennis. They could play tennis because you've got an advantage if you're
That's cheating.
left-handed.
It's cheating in tennis. When we were at the
And
tennis
believe it
club,
or
and these
not,
lefties, we used
the
to tell them it's
majority of
cheating. It
archi-
should be banned. Should be banned. Really, it's wrong.
Well, the majority of architects are left-handed. I worked in an office where there was only 2 right-handed blokes out of about 20 of us. We were all left-handed.
You see, it probably
It's
indicates.
very common.
It's interesting. It probably indicates that you've got more of that visual cortex orientation straight off if you're drawing with the left hand, because your left hand side of your body is guided by the right hand side of your brain. They swap
I
over.
know what it means.
Ooh, I hear a voice.
Yeah.
Paul, what does it mean?
It means that left-handed
I hear a voice.
people are in. It means that only left-handed people are in their right mind.
Oh, very witty. That's very witty indeed, isn't it? That's quite good, that. By the way,
actually,
Paul, we're
I
picking
can
up
hear
a
my-
bit of echo from
I can
your
hear my
speakers.
voice.
Yeah, we're picking up something from the background there, Paul. Sorry about that. If you could just get that.
Well, by the
thing-
way, Aunt Solly's... Sorry,
Yeah, no, please, jump
sorry,
in.
Paul, carry on. No,
No, that was
Aunt Solly's asked, what was that book called again? She wanted to know what the book's called.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
like
called.
to know
It's,
the name
it's
of the book as
called.
well.
I've got it on the bookshelf, but it's in the other room. It's called Drawing with the Right Hand Side of the Brain. How about that? Literally that. Drawing with the right hand side of the brain. I think if you go and look, or even do a search on anything to do with that, you'll find it. But this left-handedness that you're talking about, Eric, you know, the left-hand path, the path of darkness.
Yes.
Would probably indicate that you're likely to be slightly more artistic. I mean, interesting as well, in tennis, which is also really rather odd, Rafael Nadal, who people probably will be slightly familiar with, one of the best competitors in any sport ever, possibly the best I think I've ever seen in terms of pure competitiveness. He hits the ball with his left hand, right? So his tennis racket is in his left hand, but he's naturally right-handed. And when they were starting off, his uncle said, I'm going to teach you to play with your left hand because there are so few lefties and it causes such a problem for righties that it gives you an advantage. And there's an English player as well. I've forgotten his name. He's the top English player and his name's Jack Draper. He also hits lefty, but he's naturally a righty. So that's cheating, really, isn't it? Don't you
That's
think?
interesting, isn't it?
It is, though.
But
It
also, Woody Peake said left-handed people are more prone to being ambidextrous due to living in a right-handed world. Well, I'm ambidextrous when I played, what is it, shuttlecock. I was crap at that, badminton. And I used to swap hands, and I was crap. Whatever I had. I mean, let's put it this way: if you play darts with me, the safest place to stand would be at the dartboard.
Okay, so when I
like
come
that.
round to the Queen's Legs in Fockham,
Yes,
at the pub
yes,
there,
where they're
and we're
open.
in the darts team, what do I do? Do I stand well clear when you come up to the hockey? Is that what I've got to do? I've got to get out of the way.
Yes. But no, the funny thing is that do you know why Boy Scouts shake hands with the left hand?
I think I'm about to find out. No, Eric, why do Boy Scouts shake hands with
This
the
is
left hand?
true. It's nothing rude. It was a Baden
Oh.
Powell. He
Yeah.
spent his time in Africa, and
Yeah.
there was an African tribe who, if they thought a warrior was incredibly brave, they'd shake his left hand, not his right hand. Everybody
Really?
else they shook with the right hand. Yeah, and they thought it's a brave warrior. They shook your hand with their left hand. That was a great honour, and that's why the Boy Scouts shake hands with the left hand.
Wow.
And when I
Oh.
and when I was a kid, it took me ages. Whenever somebody went to shake hands with me, my left hand would go out, and I had to hold it back, and I then put my right hand out because it's natural to put your left hand out. That was it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but
Paul,
apparently
you want to say
left-hand-
something? Hang on just a minute, Paul. I hear a Paul
Yeah.
rumbling. Paul, do you want to butt in?
Well, I don't know. I'm just sitting here. I'm just chomping in the bit to say something. That there was a visiting dignitary that visited like an India type company or country or whatever, and they had all the local soldiers lined up, and then they would go down the line. The visitors would shake hands, and they would all extend their left hands, and everybody would be shaking the left hand. But one of them didn't know the drill and was using their right hand extending their right hand to shake the soldiers' hands. And then it wasn't until sometime later that they found out that in that area they shook with the left hand because they didn't have sanitary tissue and would usually use their right hand to wipe.
Oh, this is a first.
Yes.
Not only
So
is
they
that
used the
information
left hand
new,
instead.
but this is the first time someone's bent the topic round to toilet humour that wasn't Eric. This is a first, isn't it,
well,
Eric?
first, isn't it?
Okay, let me.
Yes.
All right, then let me bring it back to the upside down lefty, because there was a lefty that I went to high school with. He was a lefty, and his teachers forced him to write with his right hand, and he did so by hooking his wrist and using his right hand to write upside down. He still wrote left to right, but his hand, he was holding the pen upside down toward him, and it came out looking right. So he, in his mind's infinite wisdom, was reversing what they were trying to reverse in him, because he was left-handed and would have done it a different way.
Few little comments coming in the chat. First of all, just rolling back to the tennis thing, both in the YouTube chat, hi YouTubers, and in Rumble chat, good evening Grumblers. There's a bit of kickback on me mentioning Nadal. Exo says, we're Djokovic fans. And Gary over in YouTube said, Djokovic is better. Well, there's only one way to find out. Fight! No, actually, of course, Nadal's now retired and Djokovic is probably imminently away from retiring. I would have thought within the next 18 months, something like that. You never can tell, though. Miracles do happen, but that's good to know. And then a comment from Sue Sparkle, always sparkling comments, writes, when I was little, I used my left hand, but my mum stopped me using it. I still do some things with my left hand. My dad was left-handed. Yeah, interesting.
My mum was strict on that.
Was she? Yeah?
Yeah, she said he's left-handed, he keeps left-handed, and when I went to school, I really, I thank my mum for this. Unfortunately, she passed away now, but she was very, very fierce. She said, no, he was born left-handed, he keeps left-handed. Don't force him to write with his right hand. Do what comes natural to him, and I was never forced to use my right hand. So, I'm glad that my mum's doing that, stepping in and making sure I kept left-handed.
Seems right. I don't know what the problem really would be. Didn't Leonardo da Vinci, he wrote from right to left, didn't he? Because he was left-handed.
He was left-handed, yes.
You put a mirror up, don't you, to read it if you want to read it?
But there's one sinister person who's left-handed.
Who's that?
William Gates. He's left-handed.
Well, of course, it's interesting that you use the word sinister because that means left-handed. Do you know that?
I do now.
No.
That's where it comes from.
No. I'm left-handed. I am not sinister in the least.
You're sinister. And so's Eric. Am I on
Yes.
here with a couple of
I'm
lefties?
very
This
sinister.
explains the mayhem. Oh,
Yes.
God.
Oh, you're left-handed as well, mate. Oh, that's good. We got two of us. At least there's two of
Yes,
us.
I am.
We're
Which
still
means
picking up
Paul
echo
is
from you, Paul.
outvoted.
Paul, we're still getting echo rolling back in the background here. Sorry, but we are.
Really?
Yep. I can still hear it now. Yeah,
Good grief.
it's quite strong. Yeah, it keeps rolling through.
Also, every American president, most American presidents are left-handed, which is weird. Bill Clinton was left-handed. I think Bush Senior was left-handed. Not sure about Junior. And Ford was left-handed. It's weird, isn't it? But
Sinister.
because we're only, was it 10% of the population are left-handed?
You see, in occult studies, the left-handed path is known as the path of darkness. That would be the path that Aleister Crowley took. The infamous Aleister Crowley, who said, do what thou wilt is the whole of the law, which of course is completely not true. But it is the whole of the law if you're pursuing the left-handed path, which is the path towards power through darkness and evil. Yes.
Well, apparently some people say it's an advanced form of dyslexia, although I'm not dyslexic, as far as I know. But dyslexia comes out in different ways. I mean, I haven't got a problem with reading and writing. I write a lot. But
many
dyslexia
creative
does
people
come-
are dyslexic. Yeah. Many. There's probably a higher incidence of it. Although, I think Richard Branson's dyslexic, but I don't know what you really want to say about him. You know how he got his start, don't you? You know how he got all his money in the beginning? Before he even got in the record business, right? He was a drug dealer in London from telephone boxes. That's how he made all his money.
Well. I thought there was
I
something
knew
creepy
some
about him.
geezers who told me everything about everyone. I'm telling you. Those East End lads that I worked with in the 90s, they knew what they didn't know was not worth knowing. Not never, not nobody. They did. It was just all this stuff coming out. So, yeah, that's how he got going and all that kind of stuff. He must be knocking on a bit now. Yeah,
but he imported records from Holland. The Netherlands, didn't he? That's how he made
the nether
money.
regions, did he? What, he used to get them cheap
the
there and
nether
ship them in?
regions as
Is that
well.
what he did?
Well,
Right.
he started. I remember his first shop in Oxford Street that was behind a shoe shop. And you had to go through a shoe shop, up some stairs, and then upstairs. You see,
Yeah.
And there was a hairy weirdo I worked with, and he said, "Hey man," he said, "you need to go to this new place called Virgin Record Stores." So I went to this shoe shop, went up these stairs, and I smelled this strange smell. It wasn't tobacco. I can't think what it would be. It was a sort of a druggy smell.
Really?
There's all these sort of hairy weirdos, behind a
queer.
counter.
Right.
And I bought, what was it, a Genesis LP. Okay, man. So I told my parents about it, and they said, "Oh, can you get us a James Last MP? Can you imagine? Can you imagine going there? James who, man?
Yeah.
You serious? You know? Oh, and we also want The Entertainer by Scott Joplin."
I think it's good that you were put through such cringe-making moments. Yeah, that's good.
My parents loved electronic organs. I hate electronic organs. I had to sit through listening to their records of bloody electronic organs. And the only people that enjoy electronic organs are the ones playing them. The people that have to listen to the bloody things don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yes, do you remember those?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about something reasonably serious or not?
Yes, why not?
But I want to come back to records and silly trousers again. I'm actually picturing you in Virgin. Did you have bell bottoms on when you were in there doing that? When was this? 1970s?
Of course.
Was it? Yeah.
1970s, yes. It shows you how old I am.
I'll tell you another thing about the 1970s. We're never going to get into anything serious, and we don't really have to. I'm just pretending to be a serious journalist here and doing things. No, we will get onto something. We've got plenty of time. Do you remember the weird thing that happened with shoes? I always thought this was really, really weird. So... I just remember running around in pumps, Dunlop Green Flash, up to a certain age. And then, of course, I had to make myself look amazing to attract all the girls when I was about 14 or 15. And you remember, there used to be platform shoes.
Those bloody things.
Yeah.
With flared turn-up trousers.
Did they have them in the
worst.
States? I wonder if they had them in the States, platform shoes.
Yes.
They must have, right? So it's glam rock and all that kind of...
of course they did.
Yeah. So you've got those.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, about 1975 or 6 or something, they'd been in for 2 or 3 years. It was as if the shoe design went completely the opposite way. It was as if someone had taken all the air out of that big raised up bit, right? And they just went out and really wide. Do you remember that? Like spoons.
Yes, that's it. I remember that. And do you remember the winkle pickers? They came in the 80s and then went out and then come back in again.
Winkle pickers.
Yeah.
They're great.
Winkle pickers.
Yeah, I couldn't wear those.
Yeah.
They were just ridiculous. You couldn't play football in winkle pickers. It was ridiculous.
No.
But the spoon ones, when they went out really wide, they were very, very good if you got very, very drunk. Because you were like a weeble. You couldn't fall over. You had such a large play area on the ground because of these new, really widespread shoes. I always thought they were really rather practical. But those were the sorts of things that occurred to me, even though I never got drunk. Honest. Hardly ever. So,
same here.
Anyway.
But
so there's an
now,
article. There's an article someone sent over to Telegram today from Christiansfortruth.com. It's a very interesting article, and I'll stick the link into both the chats momentarily, so just bear with me. Where are the chats? Oh, look at this. I can get them both in quick. Let me just paste these in so that at least you've got them for the record. YouTube's got it now. I expect you all to thunder over there like mad. I don't really at all. It's called, you see, you go from one thing to another. Here's about the title. You'd like this. New study shows that the far right attracts higher IQs with Christian identity at the top. Now, Christian identity is the viewpoint I've expressed, at certain intervals that the lost tribes of Israel are actually to be found in the people of northern Western Christian Europe, as it were, which is an unassailable fact as far as I'm concerned, although many people like to assail it and tell me that I'm talking at my bottom, but I don't really mind. It's a very interesting article. It's tremendous. So I just want you to know that if you think you're a far-right extremist, you probably are, and it probably means you've got a pretty high IQ. How about that? And one of the points that came out in the thing was that most of these things that have been done in the past, have been done by left-wing think tanks. Although I think that's a sort of contradiction in terms, right? You can't have a left-wing think tank, can you? I thought it was a left-wing we can't think tank.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be the correct title, wouldn't it? They should be known as left-wing feel tanks, because it's all about feelings.
Yes.
I don't feel this is terrible. Yeah. And so whenever they've done a sort of survey, they've obviously gone to what the normal population thinks is a right-wing extremist, which is a skinhead shouting, spittle flying everywhere, fists brazenly, all that sort of aggressive animalistic posturing. This is what they are, skinheads and bother boots and all that kind of stuff, which of course is not. When you actually really get into it, though, and this is what the article's talking about, and you look at the people that write the articles, it talks about, things like they use logic to these right-wing people and facts. Would you believe it? They use a lot of facts, yeah. They use empirical and statistical reasoning, and many of them are very good. What does it say? It says, the socio-cultural environment within the far-right communities often emphasizes a rational, data-driven approach to interpreting the world. The intellectual posture involves focusing on objective realities, as perceived through statistical analysis, historical patterns, that's where I think much of what we talk about comes into, and logical reasoning. These traits are closely tied to cognitive ability, particularly in areas such as analytical thinking, numerical literacy, pattern recognition. And the memes, the little one-image things, it says memes serve as a medium for communicating and spreading ideologies, and the complexity of many far-right memes demonstrates cognitive engagement. Unlike many political memes designed to elicit an emotional reaction, far-right memes often rely on intellectual rigor to decode, and they do. Some of them are whip crack smart, these things. You have to you can see what it's, because it reveals itself after a little bit of thought. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you do consider yourself, if you're not frightened of being labelled something, and I'm not, I think it's really funny when they do this, just know that this is the best label you can be called. And I was thinking as well today, Eric, as I'm trudging around, I thought, we live in a space now, or it seems to me, that basically the truth is extreme, isn't it?
It is. You're right, but
you're an extremist if you're into truth, because it makes people feel bad. They get upset.
Did you go through a brief period of leftyism when you were young?
Never.
Yeah.
Never, ever did I ever even consider. I didn't even look at politics. In fact, I've only been drawn into talking about it courtesy of what's been happening, from the inquiry into banking and stuff like that. And then you sort of look at it. It's like, which puppet are they going to use? So, the left ones have been much more effective. There's a little poster here as well. There's a picture of a scowling woman in this cartoon. And the headline is, if that is true, how do you explain my feelings?
That's brilliant.
Spot on.
Because my parents were both firm Labour voters. The sun shone out of Harold Wilson's backside.
Yeah.
But my dad came round in the end, and of course, as a child, you just repeat what your parents are saying. And it's only when I started to get into my sort of late teens and early 20s, I started to think, hang on a minute, what's going on? This is ridiculous. And I started to sort of wake up from my slumbers. But you do reflect what your parents say, because let's face it, you're not experienced in the world. So that was my brief sort of lefty thing. But they weren't extreme or anything like that. They just voted Labour because they looked after the average person. So they were thought, but the information they had wasn't as much as what we have now. And I say, my dad, he certainly wasn't a Labour supporter by the time he passed away.
Yeah.
So, but when you think of the situation then was then and now is now, totally different world, totally different information, and you can forgive people for being socialists or shall we say left wing in that time, because they didn't really know. That was the real fact of the matter.
It wasn't really the terminology that was used back then, was it? People didn't
Correct,
say left
yeah.
and
It was
right to
Labour.
the degree that they've used it as a sort of tarnishing labels these days.
Yes.
I think in terms of the kind of spirit of the Labour concern for the working man, it's difficult to sort of say I don't agree with that, because I would agree with it. But I always had this creeping feeling, not that I paid too much attention to it, that it was really sort of disguising something else. I also had exactly the same feeling about the Tories. So the idea that they were overtly for capitalism belied certain things, and that Labour were absolutely for the working man. It just appeared, I couldn't have told you this or iterated it in this way back then, but there was something cartoonesque about it even then when you stand back and look at it. Our local
That's right.
MP was Dennis Healey. You remember him? The man with the most enormous eyebrows
Yes.
in politics, right?
Oh, Dennis Healey, yes. Silly Billy man.
Silly
Yeah.
Billy.
Hello,
He was our local
I'm a
MP.
silly busy.
Yeah, so he got in all the
Really?
time. He was Labour. He got in all the time, of course. I don't remember my dad voting much. I think he switched. He voted Labour in the 60s, and then he started voting for the Tories in the 70s and thought Margaret Thatcher was a good thing. And my dad was just a working class bloke. You know, as I am, I'm a working class bloke. We're all working class blokes, really, aren't we? Unless you come
Well,
from
that's
money,
right,
and
yeah.
we didn't. So it's as simple as that. And I
Same
think...
here.
But the bright working class are the ones that I love more than anybody else, I suppose. I feel most in common with them. Not that I'm... But of course, it now turns out I'm a genius. And you all are, because you've got a very high IQ. We're
right.
really off the charts bright, because we're employing things like truth, historical references, logic,
Well-
and questioning. I think that's the key difference, right? I do think
I
it's the
agree.
key difference. I was talking to someone about this the other day, an old friend that I'm possibly going to hook up with next week, and he was just talking about the sort of, well, the lifelessness of people. And I was saying, well, don't you think they've kind of let the question mark fall into such disuse and for such a long time that they've forgotten what it is? They don't even know how to employ it. Nobody asks questions. They just go, like that post, "You're hurting my feelings." And it's like, so what? And what's your point? You know,
That's
I
right.
don't
Well,
understand what that's got to do with anything, but I'm upset. We're all upset. But you see, they trade on the fact that their upset is more meaningful and valuable than yours. If you're right wing,
yes.
you're never upset because you're a callous, uncaring oaf, which of course is the other way around. Actually, I think you know, I would say that. I think it's that we care to such a degree we're prepared to actually put a bit of work in to try and find out really what the main issues might be and where the manure it lies. Of course, it's everywhere now that you can't sort of move without bumping into it. But I do think that that's part of it. So. Yeah, the inquiring mind, left-brained or right-brained, is the thing to have. Maybe we could start selling them out of Fockham Hall, you know.
Well, we could
get a brain.
do, yes.
Yeah.
But Woody Peake said, Eric, and I was talking about years ago when people voted Labour, he said, Eric, it was more like liberalism to me when I was a youngster. Yes, it wasn't extreme or anything like that. People voted for Harold Wilson or... who was it now? Ted Heath.
It wasn't extreme. It wasn't at all. One never got a sense of really polarised venom. I mean, apart from which, the guys that were in the Labour Party at the time some of them were bright. Wilson was very bright. He was an academic of the highest order. It doesn't appear that way, but he was. Then you had Roy Jenkins, who was just a complete... he was a detestable...
Roy Jenkins, you mean?
Roy Jenkins.
Roy, it's Roy, yes.
But I played this a week or so back, and I'm going to play it now. It's the brain clip. Okay, so as soon as I were talking about brains, let's play this brain clip. It's 1 minute. We'll hook back in after this, Eric. Here we go.
Strike three.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
So, don't you think if you could get a brain sold in your shop, Eric, this is really what you would want, isn't it? You want to sell it and get a brain and fuck them all. Really, I think that's the tagline.
Let's face it, though. If we had, say, for example, like Harold Wilson's brain, and you could sell that for about £100, and if we had Keir Starmer's brain, we'd sell that for £50,000. You think, well, hang on, how comes Keir Starmer's brain is £50,000 and Harold Wilson's brain is a couple of £100? Well, the reason why is Keir Starmer, his brain's never been used.
Well, it's true. Of course, if it was his real brain, then
Yes.
although that would be a bit savage, but it probably would be better out of his head than in it, because it's certainly serving no purpose wherever it is.
That's right.
Whatever's going on with it. I mean, it's really not right for us to even assume that whatever intelligence he's got in there is of any value to anybody. I mean, is he left-brained, right-brained? I think he's bottom-brained, actually. I think he thinks out of his bottom. That's about as close as we're going to get,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he always looks as if he's, I kind of, how can I explain it? I've just wet myself. He even reminds
Have
me
you?
of...
Sorry, right, yeah. I understand.
Some
I see where you're
mothers
coming
do
from.
have them. But, no, the thing with Keir Starmer, he's always got the same expression, hasn't he? Whatever happens, he's sort of, as if he's lost, sort of, huh? What?
Yeah.
In a dream. But something exciting happened yesterday evening. I went to my front door to lock it for, as I normally put the bolts across at night when I go to bed. And there was a leaflet on my mat. Ooh. And it was a booklet, little tiny leaflet, from the local MP telling me how marvellous. There's no elections coming up, is there? And it said, inside, I am now delivering for you. And there's loads of stuff telling you, oh, what a marvellous man he is.
Yeah.
And then he says, my plan for the local area, see, bring back banking services to our town centres. Now, there's no banks in the town centre now.
Oh.
And he said that he's, so I've raised the need to change the rules. He's raised this in Prime Minister's question times. Well, I'm going to ask him, instead of bringing back banks to the town centre, why not do away with usury and have a people's bank? So we can have a people's bank in the town centre. That's a good one, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Tick that one. Better access to healthcare. I've got an even brilliant idea. Get all these stupid doctors to have retested again, and they'll have to sit exams on natural medicine, and they can stick the pharmaceutical rubbish where the sun doesn't shine. Strengthening flood protection.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Local. I like this one. Local jobs for local people. I love it. Yes, really.
Oh, yeah, I've never heard that one before. It's all meaningless.
Local people.
It's just meaningless. It's been meaningless forever. It's just placard politics. It's totally nonsense because when you think about it, it's just childish. What they're doing is really juvenile nonsense, but it works because it appeals to the emotions. I mean, maybe we should turn this into a very emotional show. Maybe we should start bleating and playing the victim, It's not fair that you're picking on nationalists. All we want to do is fly a flag. But we can't. It's just, it repulses us to behave like that. It's disgusting. It really is disgusting.
It is.
And of course, but they win on the emotional stakes. A few comments in it here anyway. Just hopping over into YouTube, Keir Starmer. Is he a queer? He looks like a queer. He does look like a queer.
He looks very queer to me,
He doesn't. He sounds like a queer. Bunny, yes. Bunny, you're a queer. Oh, a frightful queer. Yeah, anyway, sorry about that. It's a sketch.
I like that one as well. I think he's queer, definitely.
I'm a frightful queer. Probably a queer. We'll put him down as probably a queer. Anyway, Red Snapper writes, I think Keir Starmer knows what he is doing. Alice Gorgeous. Hello, Alice Gorgeous. He knows exactly what he's being ordered to do. Yeah, I think that both of those, I think he does know what he's doing, and I think he's also doing exactly what he's being ordered to do. We're sort of describing it in a certain way. But he's under orders. He's under orders. I mean, the fact that he's not manly, that he can't communicate with any authority or strength, that he's weak in every department, that he's vague, is all part of the act. He's the latest act. And I still maintain that he's been put onto the world stage to make Joe Biden's, in retrospect, look really rather smart. Because he does.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, it's just getting ridiculous. You just go, what? Hey? Whoa. So, yeah, I think that's all part of the wizard theatre that is the insanity, but it's not really insanity from their point of view. It's definitely studied. They're definitely orchestrating it this way, and all that kind of stuff. Herodotus writes, "My brain hurts." Mine does too at times, Herodotus. It really does. It really does. It hurts. You have to go and take a walk when it starts doing that. Billy Silver writes, Harold Wilson looks to have been a shadow communist. I think so, Billy. Yeah, absolutely. Didn't they do a big sort of spy thing on him and discovered that he really was? That he was just had all these leanings to being a commie? Yeah. Was he a member of the Fabian Society? I'm assuming he probably must have been.
I don't know about that, but I do know that one of the trade union leaders got payment, they found out, from the USSR. So he was a spy. I can't remember who he was, so I don't want to name anybody just in case I'm wrong, because it would be wrong to do that. But yes, he was a commie. A lot of them were. And do you remember Red Robbo? What happened to him? Remember Red Robbo?
What was he? What was his full name? Yeah?
I don't know.
What was his full name? Red
I just knew him
Robbo.
as Red Robbo. I can't remember his full name. It's gone.
What was he the union leader of then?
Cars, wasn't it? I think it was Cars. Automotive. Let's have a look. Red Rob. Oh, see what comes.
Was it
up
Cars?
with that.
Was it Cars?
Here
Or
he
was
is.
Yeah.
Red Robbo. He died in 2017. Trade union, formerly the convenient and shop steward within the car manufacturer British Leyland. Oh, that's why they went down
Cars.
down the pits.
Well, I think they
Cars,
threw
yes.
him in there. It's all part of chewing out the industrial base. I just think it's all planned. I think every single thing, every single bit of it is planned in that way. And just hopping back to this thing about emotions and stuff, don't forget Red Robber. Billy wrote, who was it who said a young man left wing, blah, blah, blah. I know exactly what you're talking about. And this is the quote I think you were reaching for. So I reached for it and found it. You've probably heard this one before as well, Eric. If you're not a liberal when you are young, you have no heart. And if you are not a conservative when old, you have no brain. I think that kind of covers a bit. There's probably a bit more that you can embellish with it, but I think it's true. You are optimistic when you're young, and it's a wonderful space to be in, and you think, I can change the world. But of course, the problem is you don't know what it is that the world really is at that stage. So your changes are kind of like really just changing the icing on the top of the cake. You haven't really discovered that the bulk of the cake at the time is made out of shit. And therefore, it doesn't matter what dressing you put on top of it. I'm sorry to be vulgar, but sometimes we have to drive these points home, don't we? That the whole thing's a joke. And that it's really a diversion. And so I think, the energies of you when you are young are basically hijacked and diverted into all sorts of twaddle, which is just fantastic at the time and can create, a basis for hopefully your reason and understandable mature cynicism as you get a bit older. The idea is to not sink into that pit as well, although, being a curmudgeon, Eric, is just too much of a temptation to not take up, isn't it, really? It's just delightful.
That's right.
Really.
But Red Robbo, just reading down, he was a member of the Communist Party of Great Britain.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. And British Leyland, I remember, I bought a Morris Marina. The only thing that didn't go wrong with it is the doors didn't fall off. But it's like a clown's car. When you went out, you wondered what was going to fall off of it or go wrong. And when I lifted the bonnet up, it was actually a giant Series A engine, as a Morris 1000 engine, basically. And I then bought a Nissan, and that was a Japanese car, and that was a copy of a Series A engine, but they'd ironed out all the faults, and it was an aluminium head, and it ran beautifully. The Japanese had literally taken a Series A engine apart and put, found out all the problems with it. But this Red Robbo, he actually partly destroyed the British car industry. And they said that he had how many walkouts here? He said, that's right, he had 523 walkouts at the Birmingham car plant during a 30-month period. 523 in a 30-month period.
Walkouts?
Well, walkouts, yeah. 523 in 30 months. So there we go.
Right.
Okay, brother. Right, old brother, let's do this. Hey, by gum, Unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
So he caused a bit of trouble
Yes.
then, didn't he? Yeah, he caused a bit of trouble.
Oh, he certainly did. Red Robbo.
Yeah. Anyway, the thinking lark is quite a challenge, really. It is. And I think, I'm trying to think of a political communication made by anybody in politics where I actually thought there was more than an ounce of spit of thought behind it recently. It's the most goofy tripe that they come out with. It's not that I'm disappointed. I don't go, oh, I actually don't do that. I'm looking at it going, this is so broke. Surely people are beginning to see just how broke it is. I accept that the crowd here on YouTube and Rumble, you know how broke it is. And I think more people are getting to that point. I think it's difficult for people as well. We were talking about this the other day. It's to do with this sort of momentum around voting and the convenience of it all and the fact that people have always done it. I've never done it, by the way. A point I'm always sort of keen to stress. And so they're signing up for their own sort of con. It's like a personal con. And I think to invite people to consider that the whole process is so insanely stupid that it can never give them what the politicians... How can it possibly do that? Because it never, ever has it? Never.
Well, precisely.
Not that I'm aware
I mean, the Communist Party, apparently the first member was Andrew Rothenstein. That's interesting, isn't it?
What year's that?
It was started, I'm just looking up now, started in 1920, so it was 105 years ago. Communist Party. Yes, so really basically signing up for their own execution in many ways, isn't it? Because every Communist Party has ended with genocide every time, without fail.
We come back to this. I know. We come back to this thing, don't we? That we've got this dream of utopia. They say, "Oh yeah," and we're going to share everything out. Okay, and that's great, isn't it? Go people like us. Well, how's that actually going to work? And then they bang on. Of course, it gets more and more complicated. And you go, "Well, I'm not really in on this." And they go, "Well, if you're not in on it, you're obviously against the happiness of the people of the earth. So we're going to kill you." Don't you think killing people that oppose your idea kind of invalidates your idea? This is lost on them.
Yeah.
You can't even get that across. There's not, because they're in the field of emotion, aren't they? They're waddling around in it.
Well,
how can you possibly oppose my utopian dream and our utopian dream? Look at all these young people. It's going to be great. I saw one of those clips the other day, Oh, good grief. I shouldn't watch these because they are bad for your blood pressure. Some guy's trudging around at some street march recently, with all the sort of purple head, rainbow flag wearing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The absolute...
Yes.
I don't want to be dismissive of them, but it's very difficult not to be when you've been faced with this stuff for years and years and years. I really view them as weaklings. They're weak. Now, that doesn't mean that we're there to abuse, but they're weak with an attitude. They're weak in the sense that they feel that they can't make it in the world without sort of their... This is why I'm against this idea of rights, personally, right? You don't have to agree with me. But I think rights are a sign of a victim culture. Oh, I've got my rights. What are you talking about? Just work well with the people that you love in your village and make it... I know I'm living in La La Land when I say something like that, but isn't that the basis of it? Isn't there something sort of honourable and good and almost like reasonably exciting about that, as opposed to, oh no, the government's got... And the handouts, of course, have bred this subculture which has got out of hand, but it's all by design. It's by design.
That's right, but it could be a reason why these sort of extreme lefties are the way they are. There's a doctor who studies nutrition. She's on YouTube, and I'll just look up her name. Well, I'll look up her name when you have a break in it. But what she said was that we've got to. Now, I'm going to upset a lot of people now, and I'm not going to. I was a vegetarian at one time, but we've got to eat meat. We're designed to eat meat. And she said that vegans are basically starving themselves to death, and they're very prone to a lot of diseases. But she said one of the things with vegans, because they're not eating meat, it makes them extremely aggressive. Aggressive.
You know what? It does. It makes them extremely virtuous, doesn't it? How about this? What a good thing that you've just brought this up, because I wasn't necessarily going to include this today. Starmer's local council could become fully vegan.
Yeah.
A Labour-led council covering Sir Keir Starmer's constituency could become fully vegan. Camden Council in North London, oh boy, commissioned a report that concluded a 100% plant-based catering regime, interesting to put that, was in line with their food mission. What is their food mission? To kill us off. There's a study, though, that I'm not going to read the rest of it out because it's piffle, of course. Study, 70% of men would rather die early than give up meat. Count me in. Count me in.
Yes, and by the way, the woman that said this is Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, and you can look her up on YouTube. She's she lives in Norfolk or Norwich area, I believe, but she's Russian. I think she's married to an English person. So it's Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. Now I know that there are other doctors on there that say that vegetarian is excellent and this, that, and the other, and. As Mark Anthony said, you will have to mention that to Dawn Lester next time she's on the show. Yes, because
why?
Dawn, she's a vegetarian.
Well, that's okay if people are, but
that's different.
I don't mind.
It's the vegans.
People can choose to do whatever they want to do. I'm not against that.
But it's not the vegetarians. But that's not the problem. It's the vegans that are the problem because they're starving themselves to death. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over them. But
no,
they're starving themselves to death. And she said in some extreme cases, this is in the wilds, not obviously in cities and things, they have turned to cannibalism. She said they get exceptionally angry. And when you look at these lefties with their purple hair and God knows what, screaming and shouting, these feminists and that, the majority of them are vegans.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so angry. But again, it's different between vegetarians, because vegetarians, they do get the right proteins. It's the vegans that don't, because they have nothing that's animal. Vegetarians do have things that are animal, such as, I believe, eggs, milk, and dairy, and things like that. But vegans is what I'm talking about, not vegetarians. So I make that very, very clear, because I'm seeing in the chat people saying, I haven't eaten meat for 37 years, and I'm okay. Yeah, it's because you're probably a vegetarian, not a vegan. So is any vegans in chat?
I don't mind whatever they do. It's just that, maybe vegans shouldn't be allowed out. We're going to just have to deal with it. People are going to eat the way that they want. But when they impose and dictate on others because of their misguided stupidity, apart from which it's going to produce, as it has done, these sort of pipe cleaner arm, bulbous, saggy boys that we've got far too many of. You've also got it going in the other direction, which is great. It's literally a split. You've got these guys as well working out like maniacs, built like the proverbial brick toilet outhouse, who are extremely strong, almost going excessively and consuming nothing but meat. There's a guy called Liverman, I think, who ate nothing but liver, but I think he got seriously ill. I mean, what about common sense? You remember that old thing where you just balance things out a bit?
Yes.
And if you like a bit more meat than veg, then have a bit more meat than veg. Sound like your old Uncle Fred. And you don't need to go crazy on anything. Just mix it up a bit. But, cabbage is good for you. And it's exciting a bit later on, isn't it? And there's always fun.
And I'll tell you something. That's right. But I work with a bloke whose neighbour ate nothing but, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was egg chips and beans.
Yeah.
And all he lived on was egg chips and beans. And he collapsed one day. And he came to hospital, and they said he's suffering from malnutrition because his body had got used to egg, chips, and beans, and he was getting no nutrition.
Yeah.
So it's important that we have a very varied diet. And what I do, I have very varied diet. I mean, with this keto diet, and I don't call it a diet; it's a change of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yes, it's mainly meat based, but I ensure that I have vegetables and vary it, from time to time. I might sort of eat my neighbour's cat or one day, and I might then go
Bit
over
stringy.
to eat other That's right, and the other neighbour's dog. I'm joking, fellas. Because I can guarantee someone say, "Oh, the little sod, he eats people's cats and dogs."
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yes.
We're coming to the end of the hour here. Anyway, just one last little quote I would read. There's lots of activity in both chats. Shout out to both of you. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
There's so much. I can't scan it all, so I apologise, but I'm just picking things that jump at me on the topic. Billy Silver wrote that Starmer is an Ephialtes. I probably mullered the pronunciation. The deformed traitor in the Spartan stand at Thermopylae. All right, you can look him up. Ephialtes. Ephialtes of Trachis. He's the one that betrayed them. If he'd not betrayed them, probably none of them would have died. It enabled the Persians to get round the back of them, as it were, and do them in from the side. Bad lad. You don't want to be doing that.
They don't like it up.
No, you don't want to be an Ephialtes, do you?
No.
Because it's not a good thing. Anyway, we're at the end of the hour, and because Robin Hood is, of course, the image for tonight's show, I think it would be appropriate that we play the 1960s British TV theme to Robin Hood. Don't you think? Did you watch this as a kid?
Yes,
What was it?
yes.
What was it? Richard Green, wasn't it? Was Richard Green the leader of it?
Richard Green, that's right. Yes,
Okay,
Richard Green. I can't remember the other ones.
So everybody, get your green leotards on and everything. Get your bows and arrows out. We'll have a bit of Robin Hood, and then we're going to. Frederick Blackburn's going to be joining us for hour 2. Here we go. Ooh, like that.
Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood, Robin Hood. He called the greatest archers to a tavern on the green. They vowed to help the people of the king. They handled all the trouble on the English country scene and still found plenty of time to sing. Robin Hood, riding through the glen. Robin Hood, with his band of men. Feared by the bad, loved by the good. Robin Hood, Robin Hood.
That was quick, wasn't it? Wasn't that quick? Here, let's have a station ID.
348 Attention all listeners. Are you seeking uninterrupted access to WBN 324 Talk Radio despite incoming censorship hurdles? Well, it's a breeze. Just grab and download Opera Browser, then type in WBN324.zil. And stay tuned for unfiltered discussions around the clock. That's WBN324.zil.
The views, opinions, and content of the show hosts and their guests appearing on the World Broadcasting Network are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of its owners, partners, and other hosts or this network. Thank you for listening to WBN 324 Talk Radio.
Thank you indeed. That was a very short thing. I thought it was going to go on for ages, really. Anyway, it took me back.
Yeah.
I don't know if did it take you back, Eric? Were you taken
It took me
back?
back, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, took me back, yes.
Yeah. I saw
remember
one
it.
recently.
Richard
They're all in,
Green.
yeah, the scripts are pretty good, actually. Yeah, I actually I realised there's something very strange happening to me that I could actually get a bit of a buzz out. It's because it was an actual story, with a plot. You remember?
And it was innocent.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't rude. It was innocent, and it was just nice. And look at what children have got now to look at. Peppa Pig, where that's an agenda turning against men and fathers, whereas we used to watch Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men and Andy Pandy and things like that. Much better.
I don't know who the actress was who
played.
made Marion, but she's very pretty.
No.
Of course, that's a sexist male.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that, should I? Shouldn't. But she was, and it certainly in the episode I saw. Anyway, it was jolly good. Anyway, enough of this merry men gay banter. Let us now swing our attention 3,500 miles over to the west and welcome our guest to the score, Frederick Blackburn. Blackbird 9. How are you this fine afternoon? I guess for you, sir. How are you doing?
Nay, nay, I say, good sirs, nay, nay, let the merry men banter continue.
Oh, this is great. You're in already. This is fantastic. You'll get a free Fock and Hall pencil for that, Frederick. It's great to have you on board.
Wonder pencil.
Wonderful.
I have thoroughly enjoyed the first hour. I've got about 12 pages of notes here. You guys have been brilliant. I don't get to sit down and listen to many shows, so this has been quite the pleasure on a rainy Thursday afternoon. So
yeah, because you host a show regularly on RBN, don't you?
Yes, the Saturday Snack Shack from 7 to 8 Eastern Time. Even though on the webpage for RBN it's Central Time, it throws people off.
Silly Central Time.
Yeah, and they're actually rerunning the best, or basically the Breakfast Club Revisited. And so they're taking the second hour of my Breakfast Club series that Golden Pipe Wrench and I did, and that's the hour of the long timeline. I always say it's Paul Harvey, the rest of the story for a post 9/11 audience.
Yeah.
And so those are running on Sunday nights. So check those out. I got the late night show on Sunday night.
So you're live on Saturdays, but it's a rerun of a classic from you on the Sunday. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, those 350 episodes and change of episodes we did, and that's where we introduced the Pathfinder. Of course, Mr. Paul English is a Breakfast Club Pathfinder.
Oh yes, I remember him.
Yeah,
God, that's me. Yeah, how long ago was that? That's a few years back now, isn't it?
And,
wow.
Those early Pathfinder interviews are still out there. So
brilliant.
A lot of good stuff.
Do you find, as a show host, right? I know you just said you enjoyed sitting there and listening. Isn't it easier to sort of be the guest than it is to be the host? Do you find that, or what? What do you think? Do you prefer to just be invited?
Yes,
it's
being
cool,
the host is maddening. Even though with RBN now I have a producer, so that's great. If you got at least somebody to deal with the technical problems. With the Breakfast Club, it was just me and Golden Pipe Wrench, and we were trying to deal with the problems as they would come on. And we had lots of problems.
Yep.
So that's nice, but still, it's maddening to be the host of the show because he's like, every week you've got to find a guest, and that
I found you.
The late great Paul Kaminsky used to lament on that. It's like, this is maddening. I've got to find a guest for every week, and that people want to listen to. So, that's a lot harder than it seems. You'd think the people are knocking down my door to come on the Snack Shack. Else, I just have to bribe them with trinkets and things. Please come on the show.
I know what you mean. I've talked about this with Patrick, actually. I think we talked about Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak when they kicked off their No Agenda thing, which is quite a lively, twice a week, 3.5 hour gig that they do. It's got a pretty huge audience. It's very American, of course. So, but it is, obviously it would be, and it's got all sorts of bells and whistles in it, which is pretty cool. But I remember them saying that when they started, they were faced with the same thing. They thought, great, we'll have guests on, and they ran it for a few months, and people just wouldn't show up, and they wouldn't get back to them, and all this kind of stuff. I dream about having sort of, in radio stations, they must have a lady or a bloke, but probably, I always mention it, a nice lady. Sorry, I can't help it. I was born in 1960. I just think it's better that way. Who's in charge of organising and booking all the guests, because they're brilliant at that kind of stuff. Parkinson used to have this assistant that used to book all his guests in. He just comes in, reads some paper, 3 days before the thing.
Right.
And goes,
who's here today?
Yeah. Cool. It's Orson Welles. Oh, who's he? And he used to rock up all the time and everything. So he got to talk to some fantastic people. But the idea of having all that laid on a plate is pretty cool, isn't it? So if anybody wants to volunteer, get in touch with me, will you? I'll be your booking agent, because it's actually a full-time job, particularly if you're sort of trying to expand it out to other shows. I mean, do you have a booking agent, Eric? Do people book? Does somebody do all your booking for you? Where's he going?
Yes, me.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yes,
really?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yes, I do it. Yes, I do it all, and I've actually found people okay. They sort of tell me beforehand, but I tend to get a bit lax with it with guests, and I only sort of leave it to the last moment. So, would you like to come on this Sunday? That sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of get comfy and get into a mood with your crew, whoever sort of gloms onto whatever you're doing, and it does get good, and it's almost like the more you do it, the better it gets in a way, as long as you can bring something new to the party. Hope we're not boring you all to death out there. We're talking shop here, aren't we, on the show? It's ridiculous. Right? Oh, I remember all this. I remember back in the day and all that stuff.
Yeah, one of the things about the Snack Shack was, my idea was I've got all these wonderful Pathfinders out there in every country, every zone.
Yeah.
And as things happen, it's like, okay, I need to get them because I need somebody from Australia, or I need to get them because I need somebody from Canada. And so you're kind of watching the news cycle and trying to get somebody that's boots on the ground, and then compare, what the media is telling us and what they're seeing. So that was the idea for the Snack Shack.
Yeah. No, it's a good idea. I mean, do you still have many of those Pathfinders left? Do they still come into the space with you on the show, or is it?
Well, yes.
Yeah?
We have some, lots never heard from again. But, a lot, tried and true. It's amazing, just how many were still around that, come on the show regularly.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. And I think I'm on with you in a couple of weeks' time, aren't I? He said, bigging himself up.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, what date am I? It's a week on Saturday, isn't it, that I'm with you? Is that right?
That, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but that sounds right.
I think so.
Week, but next week.
So that's midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning for you UK types. And don't say you won't tune in, because it'll be brilliant.
Right, and I appreciate you staying up late. I know when I have people on from Europe and the UK, it's like, okay, I'll buy you coffee.
It's not that bad, actually. I've got into the terrible habit, I don't know about you, of actually going to bed too late. I know I'm doing it all the time, but I just get engrossed in piffle and stuff, and I'm going, or the worst thing is to find an article late in the day, and I go, oh, this is amazing. This is just what I needed to read right now. And I'm plowing in. It might be a reminder of something or whatever, that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyway, I mean, in terms of recent trends over there, the big thing I'm thinking of with regards to you and where you live was the big flood that you had. Was that towards the back end of last year, was it? I can't quite recall, but there was a lot of flooding in your area.
Yes, we're coming up on the anniversary of Hurricane Helene, a totally organic storm that wiped out western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and surrounding areas. Mm-hmm. And we were promptly forgotten about by everyone at the federal, state, and local levels. And it was amazing. All our Robin Hoods stood up and, boots on the ground, and it was amazing. Especially, the Cajun Navy came up from Louisiana, and they were formed after the debacle of Hurricane Katrina, right?
Right.
And so you had all these Cajun Navy guys, and then you had the Appalachian Army militia guys, and the Mockingbird media, just hated to see us out there. They called us the camo guys, the camo pants guys, right? Mm-hmm. And just the amount of disdain so many of these commie carpetbaggers, as we call it, that have moved in to these mountains of Appalachia to set up their version of California and New York and Florida and get rid of all we locals. They just hated us, but yet, we're in a complete crisis. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing to see the amount of people, and the Amish. Oh my God, the Amish came down, and they are still working. You've got crews of Amish coming down from various parts of Appalachia, and just rebuilding entire communities that were completely wiped out.
And of course, we get no coverage of this positive aspect of human behavior at all over here. Do you get it much in your mainstream media over there about the work that they're doing, or is it just local knowledge now?
The thing that you see are we've got to push the agenda. So where is the DEI person that's doing something, and we're going to put them on the camera, But the guys that are out there risking life and limb and these swiftwater rescue operations and things like that, they are not talked about. But all the NGOs and the philanthropists are busy giving each other awards, and of course Appalachian State University with their girl boss leadership that were completely useless. I'm surprised if the local, white Christian community hadn't stepped up. You would have had, horrible casualty results at Appalachian State University. It was insane how incompetent all these girl bosses were when they're faced with an actual situation. And they were, at the same time, they just hated having to give up power. So they're out there worried about how to get NGO money and stuff like that. You know, and like I said, you got these guys out there in a hurricane trying to get power lines back up, that kind of things. And, people that had completely lost everything, that they're on a roof and trying to get to them, but it was just a very cultural experience.
That's one way of describing it. When you said it was an organic storm, I'm assuming you had your tongue firmly planted in your cheek, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like I have gone through many hurricanes, and I am quite the weather buff. After you go through enough hurricanes, you learn, to watch them and how they behave and the history of hurricanes. And you are hit with something, and you have this sinking feeling that this is not right. This, we are in a different dimension now. This is, beyond what we normally would experience with what that kind of storm should have brought to the area, and that it was being amplified as it moved. And you can't argue with those. Those are hate facts, as you said in the first part. Those pesky hate facts. And, like those laws of physics on 9/11, this is how things behave. They're not going to gain power unless something's putting power in that system.
Yep.
Right? And this is thermodynamics 101. And, they just happen to wipe out all this, last of the, Dixie, if you will, the white Christian family-based communities of this part of Appalachia. And right behind them come all the Black Rock folks because of the lithium that's underneath the town of Asheville.
Yes.
They want all that land. And all these, globalist, Agenda 2030 types that have these philanthropist groups that are coming in and putting the land under land covenant. And, one of my big nemesis here, they have us pinned down because our Rockefeller demon spawn neighbors are the people behind it, is Blue Ridge Conservancy. And so they're out there like a fire sale, tracking down these distressed properties, trying to buy them up. And people are like, we really don't want to talk about that right now. And so they really showed themselves just, what they're about in this area, because they just want to turn this area into a resort property for retire rich people from other places and get rid of the traditional heritage, the English, Scott, Irish culture that was in these mountains from the beginning.
Yes, which is deep and long and rich, isn't it? The Appalachian music, all of these things quite distinct. I mean, there's a guy over there with an American guy, I can't remember his name, but my sons are watching him a lot, and he bombs around America going into unknown towns, sometimes very well-known cities, and sort of providing a different view of them. And he's great. He's spent time with the Amish. He spent time going through Appalachia, and they're better than any sort of TV journals that I ever saw the BBC do, because he's just out there hanging around with guys for a couple of weeks and produces a 1-2 hour video or whatever, and it's really well done. He's got a huge following. I can't remember his name, but he's done one on that. The way you're describing as well Appalachia, Frederick, is hasn't it got echoes of the carpetbaggers during the war between the states? Isn't it sort of something similar to that? Just getting distressed assets?
Same formula. People coming down with ill-gotten gains and chutzpah and just taking over. And everybody who tries to stand up against it is destroyed. It was amazing the little maneuvers they used here to shut me and Atma down. This, just what our our happily ever after dreams, what we wanted to do on family land that had been in her family since colonial times. And you've got this, group of, globalists, just the rootless cosmopolitans, as they're called, that have properties everywhere, and they just move between them, and they just want this little mountain valley to be their own little gated community, basically. And they're the homeowners association, and they just, sorry, but your business has to be shut down, and we're going to do it legally, of course. We're going to, basically now we're going to gentrify you. So you're going to pay 5 times as much property tax as you used to because now you're surrounded by our McMansions, and so we lost half the land and now we're paying 3 times as much property tax, and it's all because of what they've put in.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, the way you're describing it's nothing new, but this is the latest form of it, and all the little steps that you're describing would really indicate that it's a thoroughly pre-planned event, isn't it? There's nothing sort of accidental about this. It's all completely pre-planned. They've got a complete system of actually sort of subduing it. We've had a situation over here where our highly esteemed Prime Minister has apparently been in meetings with that oaf from BlackRock, who and the little lines that were coming out is that, there's a lot of farmland in England that's undervalued and BlackRock is going to buy it. Really? What are you doing here? We seem to have no defense mechanisms against this predatory buying. But then is it not the case that their real point of power is through the courts? Is that how they're able to overwhelm local resistance, do you think?
Right. And that's the thing. After 9/11, every rural town in Dixie,
yep,
especially those that had universities or colleges located on them, were invaded by these highly organized, highly trained, and highly funded cells. And they just move in, set up, establish residency, set up 8 zillion NGO groups, and start funneling out of town, out of state, out of country money to basically buy up everything they can get their hands on and turn it into their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And any of the locals who stand up to them, is immediately destroyed. It was one of the first things they did was take control of the communication. So this guy named Stephen Adams, whose father was Cedric Adams, and you might remember that name, Cedric Adams, because he was the voice of the Midwest on CBS radio in the run-up to the war, and he was the guy who basically sold the idea of going to war with Germany to that region of the Midwest, which was 90% German, right? And he was such a schmoozer. He had some real good pill pull skills, was able to do it. He was just this famous guy. And his son, who's also Skull and Bones, is Stephen Adams, who basically came into North Carolina and bought up every small, struggling newspaper, family-owned newspapers in this whole region and turned it into propaganda for Globo Homo. We had a genuine Columbia University graduate from New York that became our shadow editor, who immediately banned me from being able to comment on not only, the local platform, which is the Watauga Democrat, but the entire High Country Press line, every Adams publishing, I am banned from commenting on. And, so this is, they definitely had an agenda and, highly financed. And another group was the Schaefers. I won't say what we call them on your show, but
no, we can't. We all want to stay free men here.
Yes.
Free men in inverted commas. But yeah.
But they came in and just, we're going to donate all this money from our daddy's, the mall merchant daddy. And, they hang out with, Gloria Schaefer, right? And it's like, we want to, help the people of the mountains of North Carolina, so we're going to bring change to the area.
Change? That's good.
Yes, and so they bought up the university and bought up the healthcare system and bought up the local government, and it's just, we're living now in little Seattle, we're little Los Angeles, and everybody's kind of like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm. So that's within the last year, really? You're saying we're only coming to... Yeah, 1 year.
It's amazing, this curve that, it started after 9/11, but it's just been accelerating. And the last 10 years has just been this insane buy up of every property. COVID basically destroyed all the last of the local businesses. Pretty much everybody, all the local people had their, like mine, driven into bankruptcy during COVID, and then they're buying up all the properties and then moving in all the out-of-state chains.
Right.
So you don't have a local tire store anymore, but you've got Mr. Tire with 8 zillion locations in the Southeast. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as if, it's similar sort of thing, not as intense as you've described it for your particular area, but that pattern is definitely has been running here for donkey's years, I guess. It really has. There's, I can't remember the name of it. It just reminds me of some sort of terrible example from nature. There's a spider that goes into an ant's nest. I've forgotten the name of the spider. And, of course, there's gazillions of ants, which, if their systems were working properly, could destroy the spider. But it sprays some kind of a chemical into the hive. And what it does is it warps the communication system of the ant. And the ants end up killing their own queen. In other words, they commit social and tribal genocide, courtesy of this complete confusion that runs into their communication system. And there is a parallel, really, with what's taking place there with you and all across the West, for want of a better phrase, in terms of all of these mechanisms that are coming to bear. In the past, Frederick, what would have defended you against that? I'm assuming this is 2024, 2025, if we go back 100 years, I'm assuming this wasn't possible. Maybe it was because they didn't have enough money to do it, so the idea had not fully occurred to them. But there must have been sort of local barriers, sort of lawful barriers that existed. Maybe they still exist, but they've just all been paid off. Is that kind of what's happened?
Well, you had people that were committed to the idea of the values of the community.
Yep.
And this was the culture. And what you were talking in the first hour about Aleister Crowley and the left-hand path and the do what thou will, globo homo counterculture, echo, 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 that we were, really got slammed with in the 1960s, and that came after the Beat generation of the 50s. And you think now what the Beat generation was all about was destroying the white authoritative personality in the culture. We're going to beat it down. And so this idea of, raising everybody else up while putting the traditional white Christian community leadership down, that's basically, what we've seen. And so now it's the town of, we call it New Boone, is all about globo homo and everything. The ADL is now the moral, ethical, and intellectual authority on all matters.
No. Well, of course, it really probably couldn't be in finer hands, really, could it, Blackbird?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just amazing. And, you never see in the local papers anymore the local ministers. You used to, in the local papers, the ministers of the big churches and the priests of the big churches had their own columns, on the editorial page, right?
Yeah.
No, they don't exist anymore. So that's the big thing is everybody, the old way of doing things is not given a voice anymore, like me. Being shut down, it's like, what terms of service community standard did I break? And so you don't even get a reply. It's just you're a wrong-thinking person. You can't have that because it goes against the Solomon Asch group conformity thing. We have to have a unified message up here if we're going to take over. You might, make people start questioning things. And, so it's like you said, the spider going into the ants and spraying it, and they all become NPCs, non-player characters. And I'm now, a stranger in a strange land that used to be my home. And they are weaponizing the students at this university to, they bring in Antifa folks. They bring in, all these people to talk about the white supremacy problem in Western North Carolina and how we have to transform away from that and become this multicultural, welcoming, inclusive community that, do what you're told and don't complain. And that's, the whole, they're talking about the communist utopia. That's it, and there's no place in the, communist utopia for people like me or you or Mr. Eric.
I know.
Mr. Paul.
Eric, you called me up was it the message you left for me this morning? Something had happened with you recently. Where did you go and you had a bit of a moment, sort of a bit of an impactful moment? Where was that?
Yes, I went to the local town and I was quite shocked. What happened was there seems to be a great influx of immigrants all of a sudden. It seems to have happened overnight almost. And I was walking along and there's a kind of there's a litter bin and like a little grass area, and there's an immigrant bent down curling one out with his pants down, curling one out, and sort of people are walking past, and I thought, well, this is I suppose this is some, what do they call it, cultural multiculturalism, is it? I don't know quite what it was supposed to do.
Yes, you have to respect his culture.
You do.
Yes. And it's just getting like that. I mean, someone's got to clear it up, and I don't know. It's unbelievable. And but I actually found that as I was walking around, I was in a minority, and it seems to have happened all of a sudden. A couple of weeks ago, it was the other way around. So have they sort of dumped these people in the town? I just don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, they have.
It's
they've
very
dumped
weird.
them.
Yeah,
They've dumped them.
Yeah.
How far are you from London then, Eric, miles-wise? How many miles away, roughly?
about 30 miles, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're about 60, 65, something like that, where we are. And yet it started happening here. But I think the COVID thing was part of the blind, part of the cover to get everybody distracted. And then they were doing an awful lot of administration work to start porting this. I mean, this is a big plan. To get us to 2030, they've got to just basically wreck everywhere. So the idea of this electronic prison, which some of us probably read about. There was a book about it about 2005. I remember reading it then thinking, I guess, I didn't really take it too seriously. There were lots of other things to actually focus on. But it made sense. Now you can see they've got the technology to do it. One of the things, Frederick, we've been talking about here, or that's popped up, is the amount of, I don't know if it's happening. I know it's happened with Patrick, who's now joined us in the room. So good evening, Patrick. Is... the amount of roadworks that have been taking place locally with them laying all sorts of cables, which are 5G stuff, basically I'm looking at it going, control grids being put in and get your free, cheap, super speedy internet. I'm going, really? I don't really need anything faster. Everything works okay. Who the hell are you? Have you had is any of that going on under the cover of this rebuilding of Appalachia?
Oh, definitely. And it's interesting that the only industry that did not stop during the COVID shutdowns was the 5G rollouts worldwide. Every country, all those Unit 8200 alumni telecom companies were rolling out those 5G towers like clockwork. And, my concern, this is where I'm pushing the Overton window with my crazy conspiracy theories. But when you look at, their model of how do you destroy the family system and identity, I just go back to, the old reel-to-reel tapes and cassettes where when you wanted to erase what was on them, you would use a thing called a degausser, which would basically use, magnetic waves to scramble all the information that was stored on that tape, right?
Yeah.
And you think about what the brain is basically you are storing electrical impulses, to create memory. You have long-term memory, short-term memory, and working memory. And so you think, okay, if you're dealing with the synagogue of Satan, they're completely diabolical and evil, how would be the best way to accomplish that end? And it's like, what if they put in all these towers that at these power levels, these are the safety power levels, this is where it will work as designed for your 5G devices. But if it's also capable of going up to this power level, is there a magic frequency that at this power level, at this frequency, it will basically degauss a human brain? Right. And, so that is one of my concerns. It's like, especially when I hear about all these secret tunnels, it's like, okay, do they have secret tunnels? Because they know that when the moment comes, when everybody's going to get zapped, they need to be outside of that EMF wave, right? And so you're just going through possible scenarios of, is this possible? Is this feasible? What are the probabilities that they would do something like that? And I go back to H.G. Wells' story of things to come. And, one of the things is the wandering sickness that came from the plague during the Great War, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody would forget who they are. And one of the things for people who are not familiar with my work is when I found out I was no longer going to be employed in my telecommunication industry anymore, I went into elder care, specializing in dementia and Alzheimer's patients, right? And to see just how widespread in the United States Alzheimer's, dementia, and also autism are population-wise. And, that is the perfect fourth-generation warfare tactic of you don't kill your enemy, you wound them so everybody else has to spend all their resource taking care of them. And if you've ever taken care of a autism person or an Alzheimer's dementia, it's constant. You have to be with them all the time. It's like a kindergarten student. You can't turn your back on them for a second. And
that's so something you have personal experience of, isn't it? In your
right.
And so, you know about that really well. Yeah.
So I think, one of my biggest heartbreaks of my life was the first time I walked in to see my mother, and she no longer knew who I was. And that was because they kept giving her all the jabs and everything and all the flu shots and this, that, and the other. And to see my mother, this woman, brilliant lady, to just fade away and not even remember who I was anymore. It's like that, not even your mother would know who you are. So when you deal with these people and you just watch them fade and nothing you can do can really bring them back, that is the worst feeling in the world.
I know it personally as well.
You know.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a phrase. Let's talk about this thing that you've talked about for many years, fourth generation warfare. Yeah, you've talked about this. In simple terms, what do you mean by that? I mean, I know what you mean, but for the listeners here that have not heard you maybe talk about that before, what is it that you're addressing with that phrase?
When you look at warfare, people, a lot of people still think that, when you go to war, everybody has uniforms and your idea is to kill the guy in the other uniform than your uniform, right? And you have things called battle lines, and that's how it works, right? And it's like we've moved into this asymmetric type of warfare where you no longer have battle lines, you have battle cells. And they basically infiltrate, start subverting, start taking over all the power systems in an area while working to undermine the existing power systems. It's like Saul Alinsky always said, the first step in community organizing is community disorganizing. You tear down the system that was there, all the leadership that was there, so you can replace it with your new leadership model. And this is all done legally. So if you, the Kafka trap of this is when you realize what they're doing and you go into the natural rage, then they have you arrested because you're threatening them. Mm-hmm. You are a hater. You are a racist. This is a hate crime. I'm a philanthropist doing good things to Tikkun Olam, your community, our community, right?
Yeah, we're going to make it all better for you. Change. Why are you resisting all this?
Right.
You're a troublemaker.
We only want the best.
Yep.
And we just have to have an inclusive community. We're not going to have any more white communities. That's racist and old-fashioned. And it's all bound to Amalek must be blotted out. That's the game rule. They got 3 mitzvahs about it. Mm-hmm. And this is where we're going is they want the existing system wiped out. And the Kalergi plan was how to do it. And so Kalergi plan to me was one of the most diabolical of all those diabolical communist plans that they came up with from the bloody Red Revolution to the Holodomor to the Armenian genocide. And he's just like, it's Sun Tzu on steroids here, and that's fourth generation warfare is just fighting with NGOs and dirty money and communications. It's information warfare and organizing little cells of activists. And that's the thing I've really watched here since I've been back around Appalachian State, that they use these students at this school to be just a constant source of useful idiots, little foot soldiers, to carry out all their agendas. And it's just sad to see. It's terrifying to see. It's like, wow,
it is. It's unnerving. I think
backyard.
this is definitely one of the things that's causing the ongoing demoralization and glumness, as you would call it, everywhere, that people don't fully detect. Of course, they're not going to be informed about it in the mainstream press. And you also mentioned just there Rules for Radicals. That was one of Hillary Clinton's top books, wasn't it? Top read.
Yes, her mentor. Yes, she did her thesis on Saul Alinsky.
Yeah.
Out of Chicago.
Yeah,
out of Chicago. Absolutely. So for listeners that are not familiar with it, you can probably get it as a PDF. It's called Rules for Radicals. When did it come out? Was it the 60s that came out?
Yeah, it was 72
72
comes to mind. I'll look it up real quick.
72, I think it was.
72?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the author, if that's the right word descriptor to use, but I'm being decent, Saul Alinsky, Alinsky, Rules for Radicals. If you don't have a copy, it's heavy. It's a heavy thing. But if you want to see...
dedicate it to? Who did he dedicate it to? There's a dedication.
Are you asking me a quiz, or do you know the answer?
right.
I can tell you.
I think I know the answer.
I know the answer.
He dedicated it to Lucifer, I think it was, wasn't it? The first great radical, he said. So there you go, everybody. If you don't think it's satanic, Saul Alinsky tells you that it is. Thanks, Saul. Glad you're dead.
I have the quote here. You want to hear the full quote?
Yeah,
Of the
run it.
Yes. Okay, so this is from the original edition in 72, and it says, oh, I just lost it again. I had it right in front of me. That went back. Okay, lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical from all our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which, the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively he at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. End quote.
Yep.
That was Milton, Paradise Lost.
Paradise
he'd
Lost.
rather reign in hell than serve in heaven.
What a charming gentleman. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that think we can all get on and it's all going to work out together, just make sure you put that in your pipe and smoke it every now and again, because it ain't happening, okay? And it ain't us that started it. So you have to understand the mindset. Mind seems to be giving them a bit more credit than I would like, but you get it. They have a mindset, and that's one of those sentences and statements that really sums it up. Absolutely, it really does. Lovely book. A lovely book.
Yeah,
maybe it would be given to all your children at Christmas. Here you are, Tommy. Here you are, Sally. There you go. Read that for Christmas. No, it's not Winnie the Pooh. It's Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. Go on, you'll learn a thing or two.
What's the first rule of community organizing?
Community disorganizing.
Yes.
It's just riddled with all that language that makes people like us puke. I hate it.
Yeah.
This new language, we've talked about this, about creating new words. They create these new words and they sort of intentionally, because they're designed for this, befuddle the mind. And when you're talking about this fourth generation stuff, it's everywhere from I just look at every sort of small thing that bugs me, and everybody will have these things. And you go, these things are actually hindering our ability to be fully expressive and to sort of use our lives to the full extent, because we're basically dealing with a whole host permanently of repeatable or new versions of them, bogus problems. They're all artificial, just like your weather event was artificial, I'm afraid. It's bogus. It's not a genuine thing. And we've got all sorts of, a lot of people, of course, are understandably concerned about the weather when they look at chemtrails, and everybody's aware of that, which are a genuine thing. But it's the amount of interference in every single sphere, as if the very technologies that we've created have been hijacked by the administrative class, which of course is depraved, and are being used to wipe us out, which is the fourth generation warfare, this soft kill, as I call it. It's much more devastating. than armed combatants, even though that's hellish as well. But we understand that, I suppose, by historical precedent. But this one is why it's this war that's taking place in our minds and our ability to perceive what's going on. And then, even when you've done that, you're left with, okay, how do we combat this when most of the people that I live with can't see it? It's very difficult. It really is. It's very difficult.
And
you have any answers, Frederick? Are there any good
Yeah.
American answers for this?
Well, just analyze the problem. And it's like this came out of the Frankfurt School, and it was the psychological warfare that was the follow-up to Pavlov's work on inducing neuroses in dogs to shut them down. That was what howl was. And so they couldn't figure out why the revolution didn't take over everywhere, so they formed the Frankfurt School. And it was like, we have to tear down the authoritative personality, and we'll do that by shutting down their reasoning skills by constantly giving conflicting information. And so it's not about finding the right answer or the truth. It's about shutting down the reasoning centers. And Adam Curtis, his follow-up to the Century of the Self documentaries about the Frankfurt School and Edward Bernays and Freud being imposed on marketing, his follow-up was about this concept of oh dearism, where everybody is defeated and sees what is happening, but they've developed learned helplessness and feel they can't do anything about it. So they just say, oh dear. And that's what we're up against, is people that have been shut down thinking that they can't be disposed. They're too big, they're too strong, and so that learned helplessness kicks in.
That learned helplessness has just sparked something off in my head as well, because there's this wonderful word, abulia, which is really, it kind of describes what it is. And I'm sure, Frederick, you must be familiar with, I've mentioned it here a few months back, The Revelation of the Method essay by Michael Hoffman. You familiar with that?
Yes.
If you're not, yeah. Because that sums up very much this sort of, destruction of will. The destruction of will. And so if we're looking out there and seeing people in this condition, this is part of that process that's been basically that we've been undergoing. And I'm just looking for it, actually, because I've read this before, but it's so good I want to read it again. Really, it's pretty brief, but it really works. He says it's risky to reveal to the people what has been done to them by the gangster class that lords it over them. Patently, in the wake of the revelation, the risk is one of reprisal, retribution, and rage by the people. That's you lot, everybody. Okay, so rage is good, but where there is little or none of that, then the cryptocracy has tripled its hold on the minds and hearts of Americans. It has strongly hinted about the mass murder it committed on September the 11th, and yet there are few significant repercussions. This non-reaction tends to demonstrate that the people of the US accept at the subliminal level of their consciousness, and we've got similar examples over here in the UK, that their own leaders are mass murderers of their fellow citizens, and mostly what they do in return is shake it off and head to the mall. And then he illustrates it with this little story. This is just under a minute, I think, for me to read this. He says this: it's as if, and I love this story, it's as if a bank robber were to stand in the town square and declare, I robbed your bank. He then provides the citizens of the town with the phone number of the sheriff's office and makes himself available for arrest. Rather than call the sheriff, the people are shocked, awed, confused, and deranged by the audacity of the robber. The next day dawns and finds the bank robber now an official at the bank. The people recall something peculiar and vaguely sinister about him. An eccentric schoolteacher, along with the village idiot and the town drunk, proclaimed the new bank official to be the crook who robbed the bank the previous day. The citizens aren't sure, and the bank robber himself flatly declares that it was a dark-skinned foreigner with a large moustache who robbed the bank. The robber makes no reference whatsoever to his previous day's confession and takes up his official duties at the bank with aplomb. Gradually, as the citizens patronize the bank as usual, and the robber continues as an official of the bank and warns the citizens that if they do not support him, the bank will be robbed again, the citizens of the town become slightly deranged, exhibiting characteristics of paralytic apathy, amnesia, and abulia, and suffering from mysterious terrors. Learned helplessness, trained. And I think this is key. This is definitely part of the ongoing psychological processing that we're all at the receiving end of. But being conscious of it helps. So at least, we're partly conscious of it here.
I'd like to make a little comment, because you were talking earlier about rights, Paul, and how everybody's obsessed with them. Mm-hmm. I've been watching. There's a video by Peter Helland on YouTube called 1 Year Honeymoon.
Oh yeah, I saw the link. I've not got around to watching it. It's up here on my tabs. I've just not had time today, but I've got it there. Yeah.
It goes into Deuteronomy and talking about how a husband should have a 1 year honeymoon where he doesn't go to work. He stays at home and pleases his wife. And it's mandated in Scripture in Deuteronomy. And there's also, he goes into how the problem in America started with, in Deuteronomy, I think it's chapter 22, it talks about how the firstborn son is to inherit a double portion of anything from the father. And it's regarded as an inalienable right. There are so few inalienable rights in the Bible itself that's one of them.
Okay.
And one of the first things in America that Thomas Jefferson did in Virginia was take away what's called primogeniture, which is the right of the firstborn son to inherit the father's wealth and land. And that's been a cause for our downfall, because we don't have that inherited wealth passing on to the family, and the family breaks up after the father dies, and then we all go our separate ways. And that's why we have the democracy that we have. We have these broken families that can't sustain themselves, so they end up going out and work. All the women go out and work.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to bring in, that's why the reasoning is, you guys can't provide for yourself, so we're going to bring in foreign workers or whatever it happens to be. And there's no passing on of the heredity of the genes of that's the buzzword right now, like good genes. But it's
Sydney Sweeney's got a lot to answer for.
Primogeniture.
Yeah.
Look that up.
Well, bring it back. I mean, I don't like the use of the word rights, but I accept the point. It's absolutely sound that we do those things. The old things work, in my view, even if you haven't thought them through, simply because they were learned over thousands of years without the invasion of mass media to pervert people's thinking. It's only in this so-called modern age, since the mass bombardment of the mind, courtesy of electronic media, that all these things have been able to be twisted, if in real terms, so rapidly. Say over the last 100 years, the destruction of family, voting rights, my rights, this, that, and the other, I'm offended, all this other wet stuff that's come in is literally, it's not part of the whoop and woof of the way we operate. It's not in our bones to be like that. We don't care for it. It's not our way. We have a different way. And of course, it's that way, harnessed really to the best laws that Christendom has provided, that the other side really don't like. I think detestation is probably the word that they would use to describe it, because, all the evidence around us demonstrates this all the time. It really does. Absolutely.
But, what is the way forward, though? That's the thing. How are we going to go forward? Because this is a war where we don't quite know our enemy. It's not clear cut, and it's all confusing all the time. And they're just playing games with our minds all the time. So, any ideas?
I just think of Frederick's situation over in North Carolina. The father passes away and then leaves the property to the family. Well, the family then disperse it, and it becomes nothing. All of that culture, all of that heritage, and the work that went into the farms.
Yeah, I've got something happening like that right in my own space at the moment, which is of I'm having a dark tea time of the soul, as we would say, really figuring it out. What's the best? And it seemed, the thing about things staying in family lines is a good thing, but not from their point of view, because it means you're far less malleable. It's this thing about a allodial title in the land, in your house. Every man and family has to have a place that they can stand unviolated. But when you look at it, we've literally, all the defense mechanisms that had built up over a long period of time have been quietly stripped away, all in the name of progress. And we're all going to get on and love one another. And if you just actually care more for other people than your own family, it's all going to work out great. I don't think so. I mean, the evidence is not. I mean, I've banged on about it here repeatedly and will continue to do so. The family is literally the pinnacle of civilized life. There's nothing greater. There's no institution in human affairs that's greater or better, full of more value and challenges, but right challenges, proper ones, than the family. It's phenomenal. But of course, you just take it for granted. But people are not going to be able to do that soon, the way we're being rent asunder. But Frederick, you have to leave in about 5 or 6 minutes because I know you've got to go down to the pub.
I'm enjoying this so much. I hate that I'm going to have to leave.
No, it's okay. I'll be with you in a couple of weeks, and you're more than welcome back. We'll rope you in a month or so's time. It'd be lovely to have you back. But I just wondered if you had some sort of wrapping up thoughts or things that you wanted to share with us that were still on your mind that you'd not had a chance to say yet.
Well, yeah, you were spot on, and I love what Patrick had to say about the generational wealth. And this is when you saw the law change to all the siblings have an equal share, and suddenly you have a independent farm, family-owned farm that had been there for saying, I demand my rightful share, even if it means that the family farm can no longer function as an independent unit anymore. And that's what happened to us. You know, I had, my family had a 100-acre independent farm in Wilkes County, and Otma's farm had a 50-acre independent farm up here in this mountain valley. And after all the property deals, et cetera, of settlement after the parents died, basically we have two pieces of landlocked property that we can't really do anything with. But you've got BlackRock and all these other foreign land grab companies offering us big bucks every week to sell our land. And that's the situation we're in.
Yep, it's not good. Sorry, everybody, for there was a technical problem here for about 15 seconds. I'm sorry about that. There was something actually caused a problem here, but I caught most of that. Frederick, sorry about that. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, BlackRock talking to Keir Starmer about buying up our farmland. I'm going, well, you've got to ask me. But of course, at the moment, under the terms of their private club, which we are roped into courtesy of birth certificates, they don't have to do that. They just pretend that they do, so that we are always meant to feel that we're part of democracy and freedom and all that other guff. We had a guest on here a couple of weeks ago, Hannah, and I'm going over to a presentation she's making in London on Monday evening. I've managed to get my life organised, and it's about status and about, I see that as a fundamental plank. At the moment, we'll see what I think about it next week on the show, because I'll come back with a report on it. I'm really looking forward to it. About getting you out of their system completely to remove their jurisdiction. But we've just got to fight on every single place that we see and spot. This is why there's so much to do. So there's lots of work for people to do. We're not short of employment opportunities around here. The wages aren't too good, I have to tell you that. But the reward is that you can actually live your life as God intended and as you probably intend as well, which is probably a little bit more important than just getting paid. Although I know how powerful that is, and so do they. That's how they've managed to control people so well. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the whole Merriman thing, is realizing that you are in a full spectrum warfare situation, that whether you like it or not, you're at war, and getting your head in the game to start, defending yourself for one, and in an existential war, surviving is winning, and start fighting back. That's the thing of using your skills. What do you have to get your head in the game to, identify who's destroying your way of life and, stopping it, and, how to, revigorize the family units and the idea of private property. Because they're moving from a free will society to a post-free will society where every aspect of your life will be controlled by a computer, and you will have no say in the matter. And we're struggling for independence, and that's why we're such a threat to the system, because they realize we can never be enslaved. We will never be the worshipful slaves they want us to be. So therefore, the only thing to do is to put us down as quickly as possible. And I think that's what we're leading up to in the Great Reset of 2030, is just shut off the supply lines and watch everybody fighting, for resource, and then come in with the solution of, their new world order. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, we're full of cheery good news for you tonight, but it also just happens to be the truth, or at least it's the least error-strewn communications you're likely to find. I mean, that's generally my thing. Hopefully we're less wrong tomorrow than we were today, but I think we're pretty much over the target. Frederick, it's been fantastic having you here. We're just coming up to the end of our time slot on WBN, so I'm verbally going to say goodbye to you on WBN. Thanks very much for being with us for the past couple of hours. We'll be here again next week on WBN at 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the UK. We're carrying on the show on Rumble and YouTube, and if you want links to that, go to paulenglishlive.com and join us in the chat rooms there, or listen on Radio Soapbox and a few other outlets as well. But Frederick, I look forward to being with you on Saturday. It's been great having you, and we want to have you back again in a few weeks' time. We've got to do that because it's been great tonight. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, I really enjoyed this. Seems like old times. I'm looking forward to our next show together.
It does. It's been too long since we spoke, and it's been, in a way, so rewarding to get back and just hear you talk again. And the fourth generation warfare stuff is absolutely what's going down, and we've got to keep on communicating our little socks off and keep finding ways to deal with it. So have a cracking week, and I look forward to being with you in about a week and a half's time, so that'll be brilliant.
And Frederick, I want to go on your show again, so give me a holler.
Oh, definitely. We'll have you on.
I'll
talk to my booking girl.
All right, yes. Have your people get a hold of my people.
Right.
Okay.
We'll do lunch.
Cheers.
Cheers, Frederick. I'm gonna kick you out of the studio now. I'm gonna play the thuggish role because we're gonna bring Eli James in for the second hour, or for the third hour, I should say.
Sound like I'm falling off a cliff as you.
Yeah, do if you can. If I had a sound effect, I'd do it. A Warner Brothers thing. We need sort of the coyote, going over the cliff or something like that. But no, brilliant stuff. I look forward. I'll be in touch during next week. I look forward to hooking up on your show and returning the favours. So that will be great. Brilliant. Right. Thanks, Frederick. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Okay, Frederick Blackburn, everybody. What was I going to do now? Oh, yeah, we got a little song to play. Eli James wanted me to play that. He can hear this. He's in the studio. I've just got him. It sounds awfully sophisticated. I think we are. This is By the Beautiful Sea. I think it's a seaside song. It's only a couple of minutes long. Eric, you might well know this as well. I think you might well know it.
Oh.
Yeah,
absolutely. I look forward to this.
Yeah, are you? It's a seaside song because, as you all know, I live by seaside and we have seagulls. No seagull backdrop tonight. They've all gone to bed by this time. But we're going to play By the Beautiful Sea, and then after this, Eli James will be with us for hour 3.
You don't have to go underwater to find music in the ocean. You just have to go to the beach.
By the sea,
by the sea,
by the beautiful sea,
you and me, oh how happy we'll be.
When each wave comes a-rolling in,
we will duck or swim,
and we'll float and fool around the water,
over and under,
and then up for air.
Pa is rich,
Ma is rich,
so now what do we care?
I love to be beside your side,
beside the sea,
beside the seaside, by the beautiful sea.
Joe and Jane were always together, said Joe to Jane, I love summer weather, so let's go to that beautiful sea. Follow along, say you're with me. Anything that Joe would suggest to her, Jane would always think it was best for her. So he'd get his Ford, holler all aboard, gee, I wanna be
by the sea,
by the sea,
by the beautiful sea,
you and me, oh how happy we'll be.
When each wave comes a-rolling in,
we will duck or swim,
and we'll float and fool around the water,
over and under,
and then up for air.
Pa is rich,
Ma is rich,
so now what do we care?
I love to be beside your side,
beside the sea, beside the seaside, by the beautiful sea.
By the Beautiful Sea, everybody. Don't say we don't play quirky tunes here. Anyway, Eli, that was especially for you. I hope it made you feel by the seaside. I am by the seaside, but welcome to the show. How are you?
Have you dipped your toes into the water yet?
Yeah, I have this year. Yeah, it's good. The water got very well, not literally tonight, but the water has been quite warm over the past few weeks. It's been a bit cool the last day, but I'm told a big blast of sunshine is on its way back, and we find in the summer here we've got a very sort of it's a very a long draw on the beach. The tide comes in over a long distance. It's not a sort of rapid tide, so the water will sit there for weeks on end with the sun beating down. And there are certain years, although I've not been and had it this year, where the water in there is literally like warm bath water. It's quite exciting for England. Actually, we don't normally get things like that. It's usually icy. Yeah. I understand where you are. It's very hot.
The Arctic Circle. Oh man, 93 degrees.
Yeah.
And sweaty. It's sweaty.
So you're,
by the way,
you're our sweaty
lyrics
guest. You're today's sweaty guest, aren't you? So it's not the Arctic Circle that you're from. You're from the Arkansas Circle, aren't you?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes,
cool.
Arkansas. They had very politically incorrect lyrics. It said, whatever Joe would suggest, Jane would want to do it. that was
that's
before
pretty bad.
feminism.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's horribly incorrect. Horribly. Okay. But that's the way songs used to be. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the good old days. We want to bring those good old days back.
We do. Well, we tend to think, mistakenly probably, that during these 3 hours we're in the space where we're doing our best to evoke some of the good old days in this particular way. And I think when they used to talk about the good old days maybe 30, 40 years ago, it was not necessarily needed, but I think now it's absolutely vital that we remind ourselves because they really were better. Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I caught the last few minutes of your discussion, and I've been doing a show about Richard the Lionheart. And when he came back from the Crusades, he found the kingdom was all in disarray. Well, what was going on in Britain and virtually every country on the face of the earth is that the bankers would move in and get all the people in debt, and they would get angry, and the lords would get angry because the king would always take a cut of what because they also had the right to tax collect, right?
Yeah.
So the king would always get a cut of the tax collection. However, when he came back, they had a special banquet, and the moneylenders were not invited.
Right.
The moneylenders, but they came anyway. They came anyway with money to bribe King Richard to get him to cooperate with them, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened was the crowd got angry, figuring these moneylenders have no right to be here. They were actually asked not to come. They came anyway, and so the rioters beat a few of them to death. All right, and so Richard the Lionheart got the blame for that, but it was just one of those things, right? Too many moneylenders in one place with angry villagers, taking vengeance upon them. And so what happened was some of the villagers set fire to the House of Records, and so now the bankers nor Richard had any records of how to collect what the moneylenders owed to him, right? Because he always took a cut of their profits. So he had the special. That's where the exchequer was created. The exchequer to make sure you always have records of how much people borrow, how much they owed, and what all the dollars and figures and cents are. Okay, so the solution to all this is just burn the house down. If they don't have records,
solution.
They can't.
I like that solution. We were there's a brand of matches over here called Swan Vestas, and we were talking about these just the other day, weren't we, Eric? About the power of the Swan Vesta.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. We were.
That's right. Yes.
During the Peasants' Revolt, Eli, 1381. Of course, I was only a young lad at the time. They used to, when they kicked off, and we can't do it like that now. It's not that sort of a fight, although it is. Ultimately, it's still that kind of a fight. They used to go, when they went to these houses to destroy all the contracts, which basically said, I own these peasants. That was basically the gist of it. Right. They used to go to a room, which has got a lovely name. It's called the Muniments Room. The Muniments Room. And I really it's not a word that's used too much these days. Maybe it is in some professions, I don't know. But it's a place where all the records, all the sheets of paper and the signatures and the wax seals and the binding stuff and all that kind of stuff was all kept just in line with what you've been talking about. And so they would they'd go in there and just destroy all the papers, basically removing the records. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah. And if we look,
so that's
sorry.
Yeah, all the birth certificates. Get rid of them. We don't need those birth certificates.
No, we don't. They do.
Only yeah, they do. We don't. Right?
Well, that's what I'm going to on Monday, Eli, is I'm hoping pretty much is going to be about birth certificates to some degree. I'll give you the description of the president. This is by Hannah, who was on about a week and a half ago. It's a talk about the land court and declaration of foreign status outside the UK political union. And one of the things that we were discussing is that the UK does not exist. It's a political union. There's no land called the United Kingdom. Nobody lives on the United Kingdom. I suppose you could argue that we live in the political system that's got the label the United Kingdom. Maybe they would argue that. Right. But we have to get out of the system at the root start of it, which appears to be pretty much the birth certificate. This seems to be the sort of receipt document that they generate when you arrive. And from that point on, even though you don't know it, you've inadvertently been roped into the rules of their private club, which is so big and extensive that everybody understandably thinks that that is the system that we're supposed to be living under, and that you are a troublemaker if you disrupt the rules of the club, and therefore you need to be dealt with. And of course, because everybody in the club thinks that, not knowing what their true status is, they end up becoming the very enforcement agent against the process that would actually release them back into freedom. I include myself in that.
Okay.
You know, we've done it through ignorance and stupidity. Yeah.
Well, let me give you a hypothetical. Once they get rid of all the white people and there's only Muslims and blacks left, who are they going to steal from to keep their racket going?
Well, I mean, it's a good one, but I think that they probably view the technological advances as being so great, which they are, that they won't need people to do that. I mean, have you seen this thing with Elon Musk? He's come out with the price of his robots. They're going to be under $11,000. I saw the other. You know these human robots that walk around and do everything. Yeah. What are they called? Okay. Yeah. Brian or something. I don't know what they're called. Maybe they're going to, you know, or maybe they'll name them all Keir. They'll name them Keir Borg or something because he's a robot. Yeah, so $11,000, which is what, about £9,000. You can get your own robot. He's saying, I think households will have two, and they'll do all your work for you and everything. But of course, this is the replacement of you. They won't need, you know, in their economic system, they don't need us. We're now an expense. We're a cost. We've got to be fed now as we cause trouble and everything. Right. Yeah, in their worldview.
Okay, do these robots come with birth certificates?
Maybe, well, they probably have an origination date. I guess that's the similar thing. Made in a factory, you know, in Taiwan on the 10th of the whatever, something like that. Yeah, they must do. They must do.
Yeah, they must be able to tax the income of that robot, right?
They must.
So maybe that's how they keep the system going.
I mean, I think the whole. Somebody was called into Roger Sales's show today. I was catching a bit of it as I was taking my afternoon walk, talking about this interview. And I mentioned it last week that Dr. Richard Werner has done recently with Tucker Carlson. I haven't watched the whole thing, basically because I'm a cocky bugger and I know that I know it all. But I might get round to it because I like to hear Werner speak. He's excellent and he's a good authority. He's a guy that is a proper sort of economist who's a renegade one, effectively, because he's telling the truth about stuff. But one of the thoughts that came up, and I've mentioned this with regards to so-called economic cycles, there's no point studying. It's a complete waste of time. The whole space is totally artificial. It is literally like an AI simulation as it is, because I remember, and Eric, you'd remember this, every time the government used to spend money, there was a massive sort of uproar about the amount of borrowing that they were doing and how we got, like a genuine one, at least emotionally. Let's put it this way. There was emotional conviction behind the critics of it. Now, people just say, this government and the previous ones really run back over the last 10, 15, 20 years. They just go, we're going to spend 100 million on this. We're going to spend 100 million on that. And we owe £3 trillion. The whole thing is complete artificial hogwash. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. Although there is an idea. There's a guy I'm trying to chase up. Actually, I haven't chased him very hard. Who has said, an English guy over here who's been part of the financial service industry, and I've forgotten his name for now, but I've got the link somewhere. Who's saying, you know this argument, Eli? I mean, what's the American debt now? Heading up north of $35 trillion. Is it something hilarious? Yeah. And over here, I think it's about what is it here, Eric? £3 trillion or something? Stupid.
I don't know. It's a hell of a lot of money. I know that.
Well, it is if it's real money.
You guys are lagging behind.
Yeah. Sorry, we got to spend.
Right.
We got to spend.
Seabiscuit.
You will have.
Seabiscuit is running to the ocean to drown.
Seabiscuit is a famous horse, everybody. Yeah. Those of you who are not American and don't know about it, although the film's great, if you want to see a good film, Seabiscuit's a really good film. It's about this beat-up little old horse that beats this thoroughbred. It's a genuine story as well. It really is a typical American story, and it's tops. It's a fantastic story. It's great. Yeah. Here's that question, Eli. You will have heard it. Hey, and I've said this as well, and I'm not the only one. Loads of people have said it. Hey, if all the countries of the world are in debt, and they are, of course, by central bank design, which is a private cartel, okay, if all the governments in the world are in debt, who are they in debt to, right? Which is a good question. Yeah. So the answer would be, well, the banks, but his answer is much more intriguing and better. He said, no, the banks, all the countries are in debt to you, the people. It's our purchasing power that they've been drumming up and spending. So given that we would be able to administratively, forgive me for a flight of naive fancy, I'm sorry about this. Yeah. Given that one day we were invited along and said, could you just send some representatives down to the Bank of England? We just need to cancel everybody's debts. We just want to sort it out and make the world a better place. Isn't that a nice picture?
Jubilee.
Yeah, I'll wake up in a minute.
Jubilee. Right.
Then we could just write it all off because it's not really a tangible real thing. It's a control mechanism. And this is why when people say, well, they're getting all the money, that's not what they don't need any more money. They didn't need any more money a long, long time ago. What they're really after, of course, is total control. And the technologies that have come along, particularly in the last 30 years, obviously they've seen that they can get it. Yeah.
Okay, well, that reminds me, supposedly your country is going digital with CBDC sometime this October.
Northern Ireland is, I think. Is that right, Eric? Have you heard anything more about that?
Yes, Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland will be, yes. That's right. I've heard that, yes.
Okay.
I'm back that up.
So that way, all of their monetary transactions will be totally invisible. Nobody will be knowing how much money was created, how much was spent, and what for. It'll be totally, not that it's transparent now. It's supposed to be transparent, but it isn't. Nobody really. How can you keep track of $8 trillion? $8 trillion pounds. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you can with a computer system. You can, but I've mentioned. When I remember, I had this conversation back in 1995 at Liverpool Street Station. I had many at Liverpool Street Station in the mid-90s with this chap that was basically bending my brain out of my bottom, telling me that everything was a complete, I came to the conclusion very quick after about 2 years that this is completely pointless, me participating in this thing called the economy, because it doesn't exist. It's a complete nonsense. The whole game is just it's a sick game. He said, and this is true, and everybody would recognize this, what they're seeking to do is to get rid of cash because they can't track it. And let's face it, all these things, it's so convenient to do this. No, I'll tell you what's really convenient is to have a big wad of notes in your pocket. You go buy some petrol and you give him some notes. Nobody talks about anything and you can get on and live your life. It's that was flawed massively as well, but less flawed. And of course, the arguments for the efficiency are the efficiency goes to them. It's not coming to us. We're not going to get anything out of it apart from a reduced quality of life. But you're going to be very safe.
Even that's a lie. There's no way they're going to get rid of cash because you need cash to do money laundering. Okay. You can't have a record. You can buy stuff with cash and have no record of it. You remember the case of Jussie Smollett here in Chicago?
Yeah.
Where he hired two black guys to pretend to beat him up, and I guess
the fake beating up. I do. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. He wasn't satisfied with his lack of stardom, so he hired these two black guys from Nigeria or somewhere, to beat him up and make it look good, right? You always have to rough him up a little bit, right? But he made a big mistake. He paid for them with a check. Right.
Weren't they there? They were his co-workers too at some film set.
No. They were bodybuilders. They came to the Chicago Bodybuilding Club every so often. But
Right, and they worked with him though. They worked with him as extras on the show he was doing.
Right. And then after the job was done, he wrote him a check. Well, that's easily traceable, isn't it?
I think so. Right. Now that we're in a slightly jocular mode, somebody sent this clip into the Telegram group. This is, I don't know who this comedian is. He's either Swedish or he's some Scandinavian or Dutch fella. Listen to this. This is a minute and a half. This is amusing.
It's so weird how the whole planet can be in debt. But I think it's possible because countries don't owe money to each other, but countries owe money to banks. And if the countries owe money to banks, how stupid are the countries to pay it? Like, because a country has an army. The bank has 4 cashiers and a cleaning lady. We have to pay. They have threatened us. They sent us a letter. If we don't pay now, they might send another letter. What do we do then? We have a nuclear submarine, but they have a stapler. Like, it's so weird. Like, I'm sure that if, like, for example, Genghis Khan would have, like, in his time borrowed some loan from some mortgage from some bank, I'm sure that he would never have paid it. Like the bank at the door that you have to pay. Well, I have 10,000 horsemen with spears. Do I really have to pay? No. But it will affect your credit rating.
So that's how it works. I quite like that. It's
pay you back with interest. Pay you back with interest.
Yeah, I don't have 10. Have you got 10,000 horsemen with spears? They might come in useful. They could be quite useful for that.
That'd be useful. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. You don't want your credit rating getting affected, do you?
Right. I wouldn't be able to buy any more guns, would I?
No. You need loads of those. But of course they need.
Right.
They'll be looking at all these control points, a bit like what Frederick was addressing.
Right.
With this 4th generation stuff. It's like what you would call soft war, but it's much more devastating because people don't realise it's going on.
Right.
They can't cotton on. They know something's not quite right. Actually, that's not true. Many people are cottoning on, and they're getting there. There's just so much to it, I suppose, but finding a way. However, his premise there, of course, is flawed, but it's very amusing the way he did it. And I want to play another clip that's longer. This is a couple of minutes, but this is so... And I played it once before, maybe about 6 or 7 weeks ago, because this really... Although this is a personal situation, if you just think of it in terms of nations and the bank, you've got exactly the same thing. This is from Wolf Hall, and Thomas Cromwell is confronting the then husband of Anne Boleyn because he's going around shooting his mouth off. And you just have to listen to this little exchange. It's 2 minutes and 47 seconds, and this will kick us into a different communication space. Here we go.
Oh, you're wasting your time. I was pledged to Anne. She allowed me such freedom with herself as only a betrothed woman would allow. Cardinal bullied me out of saying anything last time. I'm not afraid to speak the truth now.
Good. My lord, you've said what you have to say. Now, listen to me. You're a man whose money is almost spent. I'm a man who knows how you've spent it. You're a man who's borrowed all over Europe. I'm a man who knows your creditors. One word from me, and all your debts will be called in.
What are they going to do? Bankers don't have armies.
Neither will you without any money. Now, Lord, you hold your earldom from the king. Your task is to secure the north, to defend us against Scotland. If you cannot ensure these things, the king will take your land and your titles and give them to somebody who will do the job you cannot do.
No, he won't. He respects all ancient titles.
How can I explain this to you? The world is not run from where you think it is, from border fortresses, even from Whitehall. The world is run from Antwerp, from Florence, from Lisbon, from wherever the merchant ships set sail off into the west. Not from castle walls, from counting houses, from the pens that scrape out your promissory notes. So believe me when I say that my banker friends and I will rip your life apart. And then, when you are without money and title, yes, I can picture you. Living in a hovel, wearing homespun, bringing home a rabbit for the pot, your lawful wife, Anne Boleyn, skinning and jointing that rabbit. Yes, I wish you all happiness. You were never pre-contracted. Any understanding you think you have, you didn't have it. And if you think Lady Anne loves you, well, you couldn't be more mistaken. I've just come from her. She hates you. She despises you. She wants you gone. So if you say one more word about Lady Anne's freedom with you, I will come and drag you out of whatever hole you're cowering in, and the Duke of Norfolk will bite your bollocks off. I do hope that's clear, my lord.
Ouch. Ouch.
Who would talk like that to Henry VIII?
Well, he was talking to... he was Henry... The main guy there making the threats was Henry VIII's fixer. And Henry was about to marry Anne Boleyn, and he was talking to her then husband, who'd been shooting his mouth off and running down her reputation, which Henry, of course, didn't like. So he sent him to visit him. And Cromwell, being in with the bankers and a man of commerce, was able to make that threat. But if you translate it over to nations, and this is why it's so difficult, or why we need to look at the role of money in all warfare. You know, when he said to him, you won't be able to raise an army because you haven't got any money. Well, our government can't raise an army if the international banking cartel stops it happening, because all of the armaments producers and everywhere are all running through the banking system. People don't necessarily think of it in this way. Oh, we've got a government, they're in charge. They're not. They haven't been for hundreds of years. And this is the main thing. So the only solution, of course, is the removal of usury, which is literally the lifeblood of central banking, and the ownership of the bank directly by the Americans. The Americans should own the Federal Reserve. That's your equity in your own nation. You don't get a birth certificate. You get a share. You should own it, and we should own the Bank of England. And that's, at least it's an idea to Marshall. Of course, the achievement of it is probably a long way off, but it's even further off if people are not aware that that is one aspect of the solution. And Dr. Richard Werner, who has just been talking with Carlson recently, is basically addressing this issue. I mentioned it last week, and this taps more into your bailiwick in a way. He's talking about 1917, and the Bundesbank being run by Max Warburg, and the Federal Reserve being run by his brother, Paul, and in the middle, Americans and Germans and everybody else blowing each other to bits, paid for by the same banking cartel. That, in a nutshell, is history for thousands of years. That's really what's been going on. And so I'd love you lot to get the Federal Reserve under your belt. You need it, you know? You need to own it. I want Americans to own the Fed.
Well, I may be able to deliver that for you, because I'm going to be running for Congress here in Arkansas on a Ron Paul anti-Fed ticket. Okay?
Right.
So we'll see what happens, right? It may happen sooner than you think.
You've got to feel that there's a groundswell of knowledge among sufficient people that might actually get behind you. I hope they do. It'll be whatever happens, something good will come out of it, Eli. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Well, the people have never had it explained to them how this system works. You know, they just assume, well, the banks get money in from depositors, and then the depositors' money gets loaned out in interest and blah, blah. No, they just create the money out of nothing. It's promissory notes that are forged. It's forged promissory notes, and then these forged promissory are lent at interest. So you have to pay interest on top of the forgery, and on it goes. And nobody seems to understand this.
Is
that hard to?
It is hard to explain. It's a really difficult pitch. Earlier on in the first hour, we were just talking about this thing that if you're classed as being on the extreme far right, which is everybody
Paul,
here.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
The Soapbox stream is down.
Is it?
Oh.
Why has it done that? Oh, hang on. Come back.
Well, you didn't pay your banker's mortgage.
I don't know. Sometimes it just gives me grief. It's back up again. Thanks for always interrupt on that one, Patrick. I was looking at the screen and it just died. Sorry about that. It's back. Sorry, Soapbox guys and gals. We disappeared there for a bit. But yeah, what were you saying, Eli? Sorry.
Okay. Well, the explanation of how money is created by bankers is never explained in any public. Although there was. One of the branch banks of America did actually explain how they create money out of nothing by simply lending numbers, and then those numbers come with interest rates, right?
Yeah.
And then the branch banks lend to your local commercial bank. It's all just numbers, and then you borrow those numbers from the commercial bank, and then you pay tons of interest when you pay the loan back. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. And the best way I can explain it to people is this. Imagine that you're playing a game of Monopoly, okay? And if you guys have Monopoly over there in Europe, the Monopoly game?
Yep.
It's a board game. Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's usually 4 players, and the banker, one person plays banker and doles out all the money to start the game, and you throw the dice and you move your pieces, right? But when somebody lands on the banker's square and he has to pay rent, he just reaches underneath the table, grabs more money, and pays the debt, but he doesn't lose any money at all because he just created more money for himself. Every other player is eventually going to lose the game, and the banker is going to collect all that property and all the rest of the money. Bankers always win.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We were talking in hour 1 about, I just remember my train of thought there. We were talking in hour 1 about how we tend to appeal to logic, or we have to for our own sanity, right? Well, we have to, don't we?
Right.
We kind of think that the truth and historical facts are valid, which of course they are. Of course, it's difficult to get traction when they're ignored and willfully removed from the public space, as we well know, because of their control over the communication sphere. But the left, as it were, gain all their appeal on emotionalism. And I keep thinking, is there an emotional argument that needs to be constructed? I mean, I dread the thought of going up and bleating in front of a crowd and go, we've got to, I don't know what it's supposed to say. Everybody's dying. You don't get it. But maybe that would work. Maybe that's the level that's required. Some emotional carrier wave is required, it seems to me, because we are a bit weird in here. And that, I'm including all you people listening as well. You're a bit of an oddity when you think about it. You are actually applying your brains to work out the problem. And yet in the great mass, you're surrounded by people who are just simply too busy to do that, or haven't perceived that there's even a problem here. How do you get it through? And I bet all of you have tried to explain one or another thing from history, some conspiracy thing that you know is true, something like that, because there aren't really conspiracy theories now, and you're not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy analysts, and it turns out that our analysis is 90% accurate because it's all proven all the time. So how do, that's the thing. I keep thinking, how can I talk to someone for 30 seconds and they just almost explode and go, what do I have to do? I go, turn up here tomorrow and bring a mate. Then there's 3 of us. Then turn up the next day and bring 4 of us. And so that's what you've got to do. Don't
forget the pitchforks.
Oh, they took all the pitchforks off us. Peasants' Revolt. We're not allowed a pitchfork.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, we don't look right without pitchforks. How can you sort of have a mob without pitchforks? They've all got sort of, I don't know, egg beaters and wooden spoons. I don't know what you've got, Eric, that you could bring along. I've got a wooden spoon, quite threatening.
That would be a great image for Hannah. Her symbol should be a pitchfork.
Well, maybe.
An angry villager. Okay?
Yeah.
A pitchfork.
There's something about, at least I find the idea appealing of throwing some kind of structural virus back into their system. But it is about
creating... We can play this game.
We have to play the game. It's numbers. It's about numbers,
right.
you know, because it's not a peasant revolt, it's peasants. How many?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
How many?
Should be millions.
Well, it should be
eventually
millions.
be millions.
It needs to be millions.
Right.
It needs to
But
be absolutely
here's
millions.
The game.
Yeah.
Here's the game I plan here. Okay, you put a bunch of bankers on the ground, and you sedate them, right? And then you pour a bunch of straw over them. You get a big pile of straw.
Yes.
And then you give the peasants the pitchforks and say, whoever gets the banker gets $1 million. Okay? Can you see the carnage? Can you see the carnage?
Well, maybe lots of laughter as well. It's a bit
Turn it
like
into a game.
What's it? A bit like pin the donkey, or what was that?
Pin the
They used to
tail on
play
the
at
donkey.
parties when you were at kids' parties. Yeah.
What about hanging them by a bungee rope
Ooh, bungee
around the neck?
cords. There you go.
So then they go up and down, and then underneath they hang them over a sewage farm.
Mm-hmm.
So you go down, up, and you can actually bet on how many times they bounce before they snuff it.
Yeah.
So that'd be
You're
quite
right,
a good
you're right.
one.
Yeah,
How
although
about
Alice
tar and
Gorgeous
feather?
is no longer around, she's departed the chat, but she wrote a little bit earlier on Paul, she said, we need 51% of England to rescind consent to be governed. Yeah, I don't think we'd even need that much, actually. I think it's a substantial minority numerically would be what it would take, because if you could, there's something about a crowd getting to a certain size that ignites everyone else. The fence sitters suddenly go, I better choose. Yeah, you better. You're going to have to. You're going to be forced to choose whether you like it or not. You know?
What's this business about consent to be governed? Aren't you supposed to have representatives?
Yes. We're supposed to have those.
Okay. Whatever happened to representation?
They
We
got
didn't
bought
sign
up by
up
the
for
bankers,
government
Eli.
to be governed.
They got bought up by the bank. Right?
Yeah, okay.
They did.
Yeah.
They got bought
That's
up by
true.
the bank. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you hear that, Eli? Did you hear that discussion we were having earlier about primogeniture in Deuteronomy?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Basically, in God's law in Deuteronomy, the firstborn son of the wife of whoever the husband is given the double portion of the inheritance in the land. And that was done away with by Thomas Jefferson in our country early on in Virginia. That was one of the first things he did, is get rid of primogeniture. And that causes havoc in a society, because the firstborn son then looks after the family. That family inheritance continues on, and that family is sustained. These people who are peasants are being dispossessed of their land, and the biggest bill that anyone has to pay usually is their mortgage on their land.
Right.
They don't really even own it, if that's the case. It's more like renting.
Okay.
So
A question for all you Brits that are still here aboard. Is there a form of primogeniture in Britain? Like the eldest son inherits more? Or do you still have inheritance, or does the government take everything?
No, we don't. No, we don't. They take everything.
Well, they're attacking inheritance, which, of course, is one of the last bastions for the communists to overthrow. Once you've got rid of that,
that's right.
You've got total free reign communism. I mean, it's just literally you can't decide on anything, and all of the assets are now under the control of the state. I've been banging on for years. You live under communism. No, I don't. Yeah, you do. It's just dressed up. We've just got a better TV
it's called
system.
Capitalism.
Yeah, they call it capitalism. It's communism. You've got a central bank and a progressive income tax. You don't need income tax. You don't own the bank. The bank's robbing you blind, and but you don't care because you get to go on 4 holidays a year. So while everything's going good, which it has been, or relatively good, and people could do their things, and I don't deny people that they could do an awful lot more things if they wanted to do that. Then people don't notice. But now they're beginning to notice. And, of course, it's whether we're too late. Anyway, I'm not going to say that we are, because I think this game's still got quite a few moves to be made yet.
Right,
I really do.
Right. Okay, hey, Paul, I've got an interesting comment for you on what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, inheritance is a biblical platform, okay?
Yeah.
We're all supposed to be able to inherit from our parents, et cetera, right on down the line.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that in Denmark, in the Vikings had a form of primogeniture.
Right.
And the oldest son, and they obviously got it because they were Israelites and they forgot that they were Israelites. So they had primogeniture, and the eldest son would get the biggest inheritance. However, what the eldest son usually did was he disinherited his younger brothers, and they wound up with nothing. And those are the ones who became the Vikings and the marauders of Europe and England. Okay,
Yeah,
it was those disinherited younger sons who became all the marauders. So you better treat your family nice. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's the story also of Joseph being sold into slavery by his brothers. They were going to kill him.
Right, they were going to kill him. Right.
So that's when family life was not so harmonious, right? It wasn't so good.
Right.
Has it ever been? Cain and Abel.
Has it ever been, right? Yeah.
Indeed.
Hatfields and the McCoys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
who needs bankers to make life miserable?
Yeah, the squabblings over inheritance and stuff, they're full of the most intense drama, aren't they? And the worst aspects of human behavior. I mean, Dickens, many of his novels really trade on that, particularly Bleak House is about that interminable court case, Jarndyce v. Jarndyce or whatever it is, that's been going on in the Court of High Chancery for 28 years when the book opens.
Right.
And he's talking about all the lawyers that have grown fat and rich over those 20 years and have been exchanged for another one on both sides, as the estate that they're squabbling over is basically plundered in legal fees. There's nothing left by the time they get to it because no one can come to a decent agreement. And so this, I don't know whether it's purely greed, although that's got to be the main sort of ingredient. But there's this sense of entitlement that builds up. It's a very powerful force in people. And they go, that's wrong. That's fundamentally not just. So, you know, the idea, I mean, when my parents died, I've got a brother and a sister. They just said 3 ways. I didn't go, hey, hang on, I'm the eldest. I need to have it all. I need to have most of it.
Yeah.
Oh, now that you're mentioning it, I missed my chance there, didn't I?
A double portion.
Yeah, you did.
A double portion.
Yeah.
Not an infinite portion, a double portion.
I need a double portion because, you know, I was the one that brought all the first joy and happiness into your life. Me, you know, and I designed it that way. Yeah. And it's me, and you've got to give it to me. And I love my brother and sister, but come on. You know, I mean, that never even...
These Danes, however...
Yeah.
These Danes were pagans, right? So somehow they kept this tradition of primogeniture going and forgot they were Israelites, but they were pagan inheritance people, right?
They'd got a bit rough around the edges, hadn't they? They'd become a bit rough as a people. Yeah, they were a bit rough.
Thank God for Alfred the Great, who straightened those people out. He said,
we could do with him back.
You to Christians, or we'll kill you. Right, we could.
We need Alfred back. We do. We could. We need his spirit back.
Anybody?
Part of the problem with these peasants, the peasants are dispossessed of any land. They should be given more land. That's right. That's another problem worth solving. Is it's not so much, you know, the solution of a socialist is, well, we just need to put it all in the hands of the government and they'll distribute it.
Oh, right.
No. And then the capitalist is like, well, the survival of the fittest, the biggest, the fattest gets the most, and that's not the case either. What you need is, you need everybody having it more equally distributed, meaning everybody has a piece of land that they can go to, even the small peasant, that they can farm it, they can sustain themselves and not fear getting it taken away by usurious debts like we're having to face now with mortgages.
I mean, it's interesting what you were saying, Eli, about the kings, because the kings, from a certain point on, are an intrinsic part of the problem. Because
that's right.
I mean, prior to William arriving here, what you were just describing, Patrick, generally was pretty much the case under Alfred, that people did own the land. They couldn't be just turfed off it, because every man has to be able... You're literally stood or sat somewhere right now. You've got to occupy physical space. And because we are land animals, it's called the land. I mean, you can go and live on a boat in the sea these days, but it's not so easy back then. You certainly can't grow much wheat in the sea, as far as I'm aware, although no doubt there's a technology coming up for that any day now. But you need that space. So, I mean, when William arrived, he basically said, all the land's mine, and I've got 10,000 men with spears, right? And then what he did was he apportioned it amongst all the chief barons that had come over with him, but he set them up in different parts of the country so they couldn't gang up and come back and have a go at him. This permanent sort of infighting, and that kind of stuff. And so everybody lost everything. And then we moved to this feudal state. And then we moved to this, we get the Doomsday Book, the world's first tax database. There might have been one in China beforehand, but it's the first one I know of. And of course, we're then in the indentured, we're in this basically being viewed and handled as a chattel, as sort of goods in a system of commerce. Because they overthrew the true law of the land by replacing it with, the law of the muscle, basically.
That's right. Yes. Deceit and tyranny go hand in hand. It never fails. So the real problem is, why do people who have a democratic tradition not see the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't people see the problem? Well, the educational system is part of the problem too, right?
Yeah.
University. All these liberals are stone cold idiots, not Indians, idiots.
Yep.
Who haven't got a brain cell operating in their heads, but they think they're smarter than we Anglo-Saxon. By the way, you sent me that article that shows ultra right-wing radical people like you and me are the smartest people on earth.
That's right, we are.
I'll buy that.
I buy it too.
Right. Well, why are we so poor?
Because we've got this terrible habit of wanting to obey the truth.
There you go.
And we love it, don't we? And what's that phrase? If you love truth, you love God, because God is truth, and it's the case. You need it in pragmatic terms. That's kind of one of the manifestations of it down here. And when you're in a group where everybody recognizes the truth, it's a bit of a delight and a rarity, but it does happen, and it's a fantastic thing. And you go, "Ooh, I just remembered why life was worth living. This is life. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
This is a great thing."
Yeah, and it's family.
Yeah, it is.
True family, But Jesus said, "You will be hated for my name's sake, so get used to it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's spot on. It's absolutely spot on. And that's what that article's about. We were kind of addressing that in sort of part one, looking at that. And the fact that they think with their emotions, there's a little image in there, like, you've told me the truth, but what about my feelings? Hello? What's that got?
Right.
Oh, yeah, your feelings. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Well, sorry, we've got to overthrow all this decency because this person doesn't feel very well about it or thinks it's rather rotten.
Right. Yeah.
So, people... And we were also talking about left brain and right sides of the brain with regards to drawing. This might seem like a tenuous link, but it's to do with the way that we actually operate. And I suspect, really, when you look at the so-called schooling system, I think it's pretty true to say that the vast majority of people that end up going into it, they're educated out of their creativity, and they're educated out of resisting authority through questions, because they don't like questions, and questions are the great training tool for the mind. It's the ultimate thing. Hang on just a minute. I don't know about that. Well, I'm right.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind that you're saying you're right, but I'm not sure. I got to go off and read a few things. I'll come back to you in a week. Okay. You don't mind, do you? People do mind.
When I was going to college in the 60s and 70s, the liberals always had this bumper sticker that said "Question authority."
Mm-hmm.
Now that the liberals are in power, you never see that bumper sticker anymore. Have you ever had those in England? Question authority?
Maybe we did in the 60s when the hippies were around, but we probably don't have it now. Yeah, I suspect we don't have it now.
No, they're gone. Yeah, because the liberals don't want their authority questioned. Right?
No.
So nobody who's in power wants their authority questioned. But that's what we're going to have to start doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with some emotional tricks to get people agitated. And how can you make people love truth? Is there a way to do that with emotionalism? Love truth? You get giddy?
Eric's approach, Eric's mantra, or one of the things that, Eric, you regularly say that's absolutely right and that we're all in agreement with, I think, naturally, is that you've got to have a laugh. They don't like us being humorous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is... We look at what happened with Ceausescu. People started laughing at him. And he lost control, and he banned comedians from saying jokes. So what they did a mime act, which was even more funny to get around the ban.
Right.
And this is the thing: psychos do not have a sense of humour. And when you laugh at them, what can they do? I mean, you imagine if Starmer came out and we just whistled Laurel and Hardy tune every time he came around. Wouldn't that be fantastic? I mean,
Yes.
the man.
Yeah.
We got to bring them down with laughter.
Yeah, right.
We've got a few things to do, don't we? We have to amuse ourselves at their expense because, you know, if we can't have any Schadenfreude around here and it's a best drunk regularly, what fun can we have?
Yeah.
We have to do that, but we also have to, I think, go back to these foundations. There's a comment from James Newns over in YouTube. Hi, James. He says, isn't being ruled over by kings part of our punishment from turning away from God? Yep.
That's right.
It is. I mean, that whole thing with the Israelites
That's what we
saying
asked
we
for.
want a king, God basically said, all right then, didn't he? Isn't that the gist of it? They just, everybody else has got a king, we want one too, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you guys in England did us one better. You got the kinks.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Dedicated follower of fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Yeah, that would be a good. All that time, I forget how the song. What was their big hit? The one that was before that was even bigger. But yeah, it's rock and roll, baby. It's time to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what about having a saying? Watch out as a politician, mate. Say it loudly so they can hear it. Better not say anything about usury.
Yeah.
Whoops, as a politician, won't say anything about usury. And it could catch on.
Don't you dare.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Because they'll end up in a wooden overcoat. You don't want your local MP to end up in a wooden overcoat, do you? You know?
Well, video makers out there, if there are any of you, and if there aren't, you need to plunge in. We need lots of communication going on. I mean, the Telegram's fantastic. I suspect they're going to have a go at us through that at some point soon, so brace yourselves. I'm always on the lookout for independent connection technologies that we can use, but they will. They'll have a go at us through that. They're bound to.
Yeah. I just had a great idea.
Yeah.
You guys, have you ever seen Steve Allen on television?
Yeah, he's an American comedian from when?
America.
60s and 70s, was it?
60s and 70s, right.
Yeah.
And he did this great shtick. He would take the lyrics from popular songs like Wild Thing. No, that was the Trogs. Wild Thing was the Trogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, okay, we have to analyze the lyrics of this song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is sheer poetry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wild Thing. You make my heart sing. You make everything groovy, right? And he would recite the lyrics in utter seriousness, right? And the audience was side-splitting laughter, rolling on the floor. Well, this is what you should do: speeches. Keir Starmer speeches in a mocking tone of voice like that. I better knock him dead. Knock him dead.
Do you remember Peter Sellers doing A Hard Day's Night?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't.
Yeah, I remember it.
Don't you remember it? Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
going
I
to play
do.
you a bit. I've got it here. Listen to this. It's 2 minutes long, but I won't play it all. It's him doing Hard Day's Night, but as if it was a Shakespearean play, I think.
Okay, right, there you go.
It's quite nice, this.
It has been a hard day's night, and I have been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a log. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel all right.
So that's him as Richard III, I believe. Yeah, Richard III. So
No,
yeah, we
very Shakespearean.
yeah, absolutely. He was delivering Shakespeare. It's a Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. So there we go. That's how you do it. You get hold of those lyrics and you just rearrange them and deliver them in a slightly different way. Absolutely. That's what we've got to do.
Okay, so whenever a British politician gives a speech, everybody sings "Wild Thing." You make my heart sing, and just drown them out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
Sheer
they never turn
disrespect.
up into public. They don't occur in public spaces now. Everything is so
no?
tightly controlled. Yeah, they're just not there. There's no sense of connection. Certainly with this lot, there's no sense of connection between that enclave called the Houses of Parliament and the
people.
peasants. Yeah, the pleasant peasants. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, the whole thing is being kind of manipulated. I've seen things now, like I saw some headlines last couple of days, like England's just weeks away from civil war and all this kind of stuff. And I suspect that they're behind that. That's what they want.
Sure.
And everybody's nervous.
Yeah.
You know, they brought all these guys over that are basically nutcases that they're putting in hotels. They're going to arm them up. And it's a bit like you always bring in foreign troops if you're going to put down your own people, right? Because they don't care.
Right.
So it might get very nasty. It might get it could get nasty, and it's to subdue the people with something shocking and awful, so that people go back in. You know, it might well work. I mean, you know, history shows that this is the case. When the people are really hammered, they buckle. Any people would.
Okay. Is there any awareness at all in Britain that all these illegal aliens from third world countries are actually a proxy army to be used against the British people? Or are the British simply so nice and gentle and kind to strangers that they're just all going to be hacked to pieces?
I think both. I think there's definitely a growing percentage of people that understand your first proposition, as we do here. It's definitely, you've got to put it down, even if it's not absolutely true, you've got to put it down on a list of strong possibilities. You go, because there's literally, you know, the ongoing discussion about immigration and illegal immigration, all this kind of stuff, is basically designed to be a never-ending discussion with no action taken. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. You go and ask the peasants, we'll sort it out for you. I mean, what's his name? There's a guy over here called Cummins, who used to be part of the Conservative Party, and he did a thing a couple of weeks ago saying it's quite easy. He said, you just get a boat, you go out there, you blow one boat out of the water, it'll probably kill them, and they won't come anymore.
Yeah, right.
That's it. Then we go and see the French and we say, we're not doing any more deals. It's not one in and one out. I don't know if you've heard, Starmer's got this sort of insane thing. For everyone that comes in, we'll send one back to France. This is just, it's meant to be an insult to us. It's meant for you to think. We're being programmed that the government is useless. They want you to think that. They want you to give up any sort of idea that they're going to help you. But it's all couched in these terms. A bit like that story I was reading out about the bank robber. Yeah, I didn't do it. And it just goes on and on and on. Nothing ever happens. This is by design. But whilst they're always pleading, you know, that, we can't do it for this reason. And of course, they've got loads of women in politics now who seem to sort of love all this emotive stuff. And I'm not just blaming the women, because the blokes are just as bad. But that's what they're used for. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, especially after a couple of shots of ale. But the French have done us a great big favor by exposing the Brigitte Macron story. Okay. And it is so downright degenerate that it can only, the only thing they can really do is smack their chops. I'm talking about the comedians. Smack their chops with one-liners against Brigitte Macron and the fact that she is a boy. Okay. Yep. And is it possible that France is ruled over by a homosexual who likes to molest boys? Is it possible?
Well, England is.
Yeah. I thought I was talking only about France. Okay.
No, I reckon nearly all of them, Eli. I reckon the whole thing is to provide demoralization in every single sphere of public life. Everything. Industry doesn't work. You can't control your borders. You're governed by maniacs. Everybody, the people that cry the most to get all the money. Your own people can't be fed and housed, but everybody else can. This is happening. Don't worry, we're going to love everyone. The whole thing is designed to be mad. It's insane. It really is Saul Alinsky on steroids.
Right.
You know, it really is. That's exactly what it is. That's what's going on. It is.
Yeah, the barbarians have invaded the village, and the villagers don't care.
Yeah. But as I was mentioning last week, getting hold of the white dragon Anglo-Saxon flag and beginning to get that pushed around a bit. Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing is a T-shirt. I personally need a red with a white dragon T-shirt yesterday. I want one. I need T-shirts anyway. So I want T-shirts and I want some sweatshirts for winter and stuff like that. So anybody out there, just get to it. And if you come up with it sooner, just let us know and we'll direct things over there. We need people to build shops and start selling this gear and becoming hubs for all of this stuff. We just got to get on with it.
Okay.
So
I'll send you a few bolos. I'll send you a few bolos. Texas bolos, but with maybe a handgun on it.
Yep. Yeah, do that.
Okay, 'cause
Yeah.
they all have
Well,
some
maybe.
kind of
I don't know.
symbol. Yeah.
I just need. I'll tell you what
Yeah,
I
or
would really
pitchfork.
like. If you find them, I'll tell you what I would really like is a 48-hour day. If you've got any of those,
Yeah.
that would be
oh,
great.
okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we'll pass a law.
Absolutely.
Nobody goes to sleep though.
Yeah.
For 48 hours. All right. Okay, guys.
Eli, it's been great having
We'll
you
get
here.
this figured out.
I'm gonna call you at short notice again in the next few weeks and bring you in because it's fantastic having you here.
whatever.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Okay.
I love it. The looser it is, the better it is, actually, and it works really well. It's been great having you
Yeah.
again. Eric's keen to
I
talk
wish
to
it
you
was
about
cool
your
in
Vietnam
Arkansas, but
stories.
it's
We'll do
not.
that in another show, and because they're always great.
Sure.
Seriously,
Oh, boy.
so
Boy.
fantastic. Oh boy,
Yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, look, keep
Okay.
us informed
All right,
on your
Eric, everybody
campaign to
else?
rule America. We need you to. We need you to get
yes.
in charge. Get in charge, will you?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
got energy. I got energy now. Okay.
You do. All right,
Take care,
fantastic,
everybody.
Eli James, everybody,
Bye-bye.
fantastic.
All
You
right.
can catch
See
him
you.
every Sunday
Bye.
on.
See ya. Take care. Bye, Paul.
Yeah,
Bye,
see ya.
Eric. Yeah.
You can catch him
All right,
every
take care.
Sunday
Bye.
on Eurofolk Radio and on Radio Soapbox. What time? 3 p.m. He's on for an hour and a half. Great show, everyone.
Okay.
Shout
Very
out to
good.
everybody in Rumble and YouTube. Absolutely brilliant. We'll be back again same time next week. Have a cracking week. Get thinking about that white dragon, will you? Anybody that comes up with stuff, let us know. Bye for now, everyone.